Chapter 1005. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 22 seconds AM. Chapter 1005. 1005. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1005. Fighting Lord Ji and the 7 legacy families. KK kill them all. Lord Ji commanded everyone there in a trembling voice. The 200,000 remaining cultivators there started rushing forward. Seeing this, Yuan turned to look at Feng Yuxiang and the others. With a tranquil expression and a calm voice that could soothe even a crying baby, he spoke, "Leave nobody alive." With pleasure. A wide smile appeared on Feng Yuxiang's face as she flew away from the staircase and towards the army to the west, leaving a trail of beautiful golden flames wherever she went. Xiaohua didn't say anything and flew towards the east. Once she was in front of the army, she retrieved 2 spiritual weapons that emitted an aura only divine-grade treasures can emit. As for Lan Yingying, she went in the direction where Lord Ji and the 7 leaders were not present, leaving them to Yuan. Once she was in the air, Lan Yingying transformed into a massive white serpent. The people there were greatly shocked by Lan Yingying's transformation. She was a magical beast this whole time? No. This divine aura around her, she's a divine beast. Lord Ji exclaimed. He couldn't believe his eyes. Why would a divine beast be with someone like Yuan, much less help him? Once she reached the army, Lan Yingying opened her mouth and breathed scared flames on them like a dragon. Everyone that was unfortunate enough to touch her sacred flames were instantly engulfed in her flames and burned until there was nothing left. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang would cause explosions whenever she went, even creating a sea of flames with her phoenix fire. Xiaohua would casually swing her spiritual weapons and kill over a dozen people with a single swing. Terrified screams resounded in all directions and the 200,000 army quickly diminished. It was a one-sided slaughter that left Lord Ji and the leaders of the 7 legacy families utterly shocked and terrified, and they all wondered what kind of background Yuan had to be able to do something like this. However, they were also beginning to understand why the heavens wanted him dead. The heavens. Are they scared of his potential? He's only a spirit lord in the 2nd heaven, yet he's already amassed such prowess. Lord Ji wondered inwardly. Yuan took a deep breath and sighed out loud. The scent of heaven's puppets being slaughtered is always pleasing, but it's not enough. There's not enough blood, not enough carnage. Yuan suddenly summoned the Empyrean Overlord and flew towards Lord Ji and the 7 leaders. He's coming. Support me and let's kill him together. Lord Ji also retrieved his weapon and approached Yuan. The 7 leaders followed him from behind. You think you can kill me? Not even the Celestial Emperor could achieve such a feat, much less a few mutts like you. Yuan laughed out loud as he confronted Lord Ji in the air. Celestial Emperor? What nonsense are you mumbling about, you crazy monster? Lord Ji shouted as his sword collided with Yuan's greatsword. Clang! Ugh! Lord Ji gritted his teeth after feeling the impact behind Yuan's strike and was even pushed back many meters. What intense strength! Lord Ji cried inwardly as he tried to recover from the attack. Meanwhile, the 7 leaders surrounded Yuan and started unleashing their techniques at him simultaneously. Seeing this, Yuan used his wings to cover his body, leaving no gaps in his defenses. The power of 7 spirit kings clashed with Yuan. The attacks managed to create many holes in Yuan's wings, but these holes disappeared as quickly as they appeared, and the person himself was not hurt in the slightest. Impossible. How can he remain unharmed after eating all 7 of our attacks? What kind of technique is he using? Patriarch Gu exclaimed in a shocked voice. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. We don't have the time to think about it. Let's keep attacking him. I doubt he will be able to use that power for long. The leader of the Xian family, Patriarch Xian, shouted. Mongrels that can't tell the difference between heaven and earth, allow me to show you what happens when you point your weapons at me. Yuan suddenly gathered an immense amount of killing intent that condensed into a huge blade in the sky. Lord Ji and the 7 leaders were petrified on the spot from fear after witnessing the blade of killing intent in the sky. Azura's blade of execution. Yuan mumbled in a low voice as he gestured for the blade to fall towards Lord Ji and the 7 leaders. Xiao Hua momentarily stopped fighting when she noticed the blade in the sky. That technique. How does Brother Yuan know Xiao Hua's family technique? She cried inwardly. Lord Ji and the 7 leaders wanted to run away from the attack, but the pressure coming from the blade prevented them from going anywhere, forcing them to fight it head-on. Use all of your life-saving treasures. Lord Ji roared in a desperate voice. All of them immediately retrieved all of their life-saving treasures without daring to hold anything back, as their lives depended on whether they could defend this one strike from Yuan. Over 50 kinds of life-saving treasures stood before Yuan and the others. The Azura's blade of execution collided with the life-saving treasures a moment later, and it instantly shattered over half of them. As for the rest of the life-saving treasures, they did not last long either, and the blade continued to fall. Lord Ji and the others even used their blood essence to enhance the life-saving treasures, which would shorten their lifespan and damage their cultivation even if they survived the attack. However, they were desperate and did not want to die. Yuan. Let's talk this through. Well, give up on trying to kill you. Have mercy. Lord Ji eventually tossed aside his pride and pleaded for mercy. The 7 leaders also begged for Yuan to spare their lives. However, Yuan's face remained nonchalant, and he spoke in a calm voice. There is only one fate for those who dare block my path, death. And, starting now and until the end of the month, I will be giving bonus chapters for super gifts. Up to 3 bonus chapters will be released every day, not including the 2 daily chapters. Also, check out Magic System in a parallel world while you're waiting for a new chapter. It has almost 80,000 words. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1006. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 21 seconds AM. Chapter 1006. 1006. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1006. Azura's blade of execution. There is only one fate for those who dare block my path, death. Yuan's words reverberate in Lord Jis and the leaders' heads, putting them in a daze for a split second. However, this split second was more than enough to disturb their concentration and break their defenses. The heavens will never forgive you for this, Yuan. Lord Ji screamed at the top of his lungs as the Azura's blade of execution consumed their bodies, killing them instantly. Yuan wiped the sweat from his face after deactivating Azura's blade of execution. The technique required so much energy that it nearly exhausted all of his spiritual energy. The heavens will never forgive me? The heavens should be the one begging for forgiveness. He closed his eyes and began recovering his spiritual energy while hovering in midair. When the army saw this, they saw this as a chance to avenge their leaders and kill Yuan while he was weak. And since there were so many people there, Xiao Hua and the others could not hold them all back from reaching Yuan. However, their help wasn't necessary because Yuan still had more than enough energy to deal with the leftovers of the Ji family and the 7 legacy families. Without opening his eyes or moving his body, Yuan used the starry abyss to kill anyone that dared to approach him. Eventually, the rest of the army started fleeing from the battle. With their leaders dead and without having anyone strong enough to deal with Yuan's servants, much less Yuan himself, it was basically a suicide mission with no chance of winning, so the people did what was natural, abandon the fight and run away. Where do you ants think you're going? There is nowhere for you to run. The young master has ordered us to leave none alive. All of you insignificant ants that dared to point their weapons at my young master will perish here today. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed as she released the strongest technique that she could muster with her current strength. Phoenix flames burning heaven's art. Feng Yuxiang summoned her fiery wings, and flames started appearing in the sky above her, almost as though the heavens were on fire. Burn them all. Feng Yuxiang flicked her sleeves, causing the sea of flames in the sky to rain down countless fiery projectiles that took the shape of a feather. In mere seconds, tens of thousands of cultivators fell to Feng Yuxiang's attack. Not wanting to lose to Feng Yuxiang, Xiaohua started releasing heaven-splitting sword strikes with every swing, changing the landscape there within moments. When Lan Yingying saw their awe-inspiring performance, she felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her body and her heart throbbing with excitement. The three servants felt as though something had ignited within their hearts after Yuan gave them their first order to fight for him, so they wanted to perform to the best of their abilities. Although it felt like a long time had passed, in reality, only a few minutes have passed since the fight began. The battlefield eventually became quiet, and Xiao Hua and the others returned to Yuan's side, their mission finished. Young master, we have eradicated everyone from the 7 legacy families and the Ji family. What are your orders now? Feng Yuxiang said to him with a satisfied look on her face. Yuan looked at the destruction that they had caused and spoke, we have done something irreversible today. We might kill even more people in the future, soaking our bodies in blood. I won't blame you even if you wish to leave my side now. Even if you order me to kill everyone in the 9 heavens, would not hesitate to stain my hands for you, young master. Feng Yuxiang said. Xiao Hua too. Xiao Hua also said. Lan Yingying silently nodded her head. Yuan smiled when he saw the resolve in their eyes, and he spoke in a calm voice, I'm really fortunate to have companions like you by my side. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Sometime later, Yuan's appearance returned to normal, and the evil god's presence could no longer be felt. Let's gather all of the treasures here before we leave. It would be a waste to leave them here, he said to them a moment later. They proceeded to gather all of the spatial rings and storage pouches from the battlefield. Young master, I have been wanting to ask you this for a while now, but how many reincarnations have you experienced? And do you have memories from all of your past life? Feng Yuxiang asked him as they looted the corpses. I don't know. I am only aware of 4 at this moment, and I don't have all of their memories. I have recently assimilated the Divine Paragon's memories, but I can only absorb so much at a time, so it will be a while before I fully regain all of the Divine Paragon's memories, and until I do that, I cannot touch the others' memories. Though, they sometimes leak out, just like a few minutes ago. He explained to them. Who was responsible for the event just now? Feng Yuxiang asked him. He calls himself the evil god. He seems to be an infamous killer that has killed countless people in the past, but I think there is more to it. Evil god, huh? The name sounds familiar, but I cannot remember where I heard it from. Feng Yuxiang said with a pondering face. Xiao Hua then spoke, Brother Yuan. That technique you used just now. Is it also because of the evil god? He nodded. That's right. Azura's blade of execution, huh? It's the strongest technique I have seen thus far. It must be at least an ancient rank technique. It's a mythic rank technique from Xiao Hua's family. She revealed to him the origin of the technique. What? Really? Yuan looked at her with wide eyes. So the evil god is somehow connected with your family? How surprising, Yuan mumbled. But Xiao Hua doesn't know any evil god. She shook head. It's fine. We don't need to know everything right away. We will find the answers eventually. Xiao Hua nodded. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1007. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 22 a.m. Chapter 1007. 1007 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1007. Shocking the spirit heaven. After Meishio and the others entered the stairway to heaven, they appeared in the spectators' room. Where are we? This is the stairway to heaven? Li Jinsi looked around with a curious gaze. This is just the spectators' room. We'll be watching Yuan participate in the trials from here. This way we can't disturb him. Chu Liuxiang explained. I see. The 3 of them proceeded to wait in silence. 10 minutes passed, but it felt more like an hour to the 3 ladies that were anxiously waiting for Yuan to enter the stairway to heaven. How long has it been since we entered the stairway to heaven? It's taking too long. Did something happen to him out there? Chu Liuxiang was the first to talk about it. With Feng Feng and the others with him, it will be fine. Mei Xiao calmly said. Are they really that powerful? I have never seen them fight before though. Chu Liuxiang said. I haven't either, but the feeling I get from them is more powerful than anyone I have met in. Meanwhile, Yuan and the others finally finished looting all of the corpses after much effort. How much do you think we'll get out of this? Yuan asked after putting away the treasures. Honestly, you would have gotten more money from the life-saving treasures, but they were all destroyed. Feng Yuxiang said. Well, there's nothing I can do about that now. Yuan shrugged. Let's enter the stairway to heaven now. I don't want the others to worry since it's been a while. He went to knock on the door shortly after. Once the stairway to heaven opened, Yuan walked into the void. Feng Yuxiang and the other two were teleported to the spectators' room after they entered. Welcome back, Master. A small figure approached Yuan shortly after he appeared inside the stairway to heaven. Thank you for opening the doors, Tian'er. To be honest, I wasn't confident that you would do it, but I had to try. Yuan said. You are the true master of the stairway to heaven. The others are just fakes. She said. Anyways, do you mind if I take some time to recover my energy before we start? I'm a little exhausted right now. Tian'er nodded. Take as long as you need, Master. The trials will not officially start until you walk those stairs. Thank you. Yuan took a seat right on the spot and began cultivating. Tian'er sat before him and actually helped him recover his energy by guiding the spiritual energy within the stairway to heaven, making it much easier for him to absorb. Evil God. Why did you feel so much rage when you saw that golden medallion? What did it mean to you? Yuan wondered to himself as he cultivated. Meanwhile, outside the stairway to heaven, news of the battle that had taken place there began spreading throughout the entire spirit heaven like a massive wildfire. The sheer destruction and damage the place had to endure shocked everyone in that realm. However, almost nobody in spirit heaven knew what had occurred there. The only people that knew of the situation were those in the 7 legacy families and the Ji family that stayed behind and did not participate in the battle, so not even the 7, now 6 spiritual academies knew the full situation. When news of the battle reached the ears of those within the 7 legacy families and the Ji family, they were all shocked and became filled with despair, which was only ordinary, as their leaders and most senior members had all perished in a single day. Such devastation was unprecedented for all of these families. Besides a few elders and the younger generation, pretty much the rest of their families were gone. Their numbers had diminished so much that they would no longer be considered a legacy family. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Contact our families in the upper heavens. We cannot let that criminal escape. Since he's ascending through the stairway to heaven, they can set up an ambush outside. The 7 legacy families wasted no time contacting their families in the upper heavens, letting them know of the situation. What? A single person had defeated our 7 legacy families and the Ji family? How is that even possible? The families in the upper heavens doubted this information because it sounded utterly ridiculous and impossible. We're not sure if he was working alone or had help, but it's true that everyone who had gone to kill him is dead. That's preposterous. What in heaven's name happened down there? The upper families demanded an explanation. The Ji family had ordered our 7 legacy families to bring out all of our forces after someone had been judged black by heaven's judgment. You fool. Why did you agree to help him? The 7 legacy families may have some connections to the Ji family, but we're not their soldiers. The leaders thought it was going to be easy since they were only going to kill a single spirit lord, and they didn't want to lose face. However, it seems like everyone has underestimated this spirit lord, who has unfathomable prowess. What about Lord Ji and the Ji family? Lord Ji was also killed in action. However, we don't know how their family is reacting to the news. I think I can imagine how they're reacting, the leaders of the 7 legacy families from the upper heavens side. Where is this person that dared to slaughter people from our family? Tell me everything about him. The families from Spirit Heaven proceeded to tell them everything they knew about Yuan and that he had entered the stairway to heaven to ascend. I understand. Even if he manages to ascend, we will all be waiting for him outside the stairway to heaven. The third heaven will be his last stop. Meanwhile, at the Ji family, a small group of individuals gathered in the meeting room, all of them showing signs of grief, as they'd just received news about the result of the battle. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1008. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 19 seconds AM. Chapter 1008. 1008. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1008. Preparing their ambush inside the meeting room, one of the people there suddenly spoke after a long moment of silence in the room. Is it true that my father is dead? Yes, it's true. His life tablet is destroyed, and news of what happened at the stairway to heaven has already spread throughout the entire realm. It will only be a matter of time before the people in the upper heavens learn of the massacre. Have we notified our family in third heaven yet? No, not yet. Then what the fuck are we doing here? We need to notify them as soon as possible. We also need to have someone watching the stairway to heaven just in case he fails and stays down here for a little longer. If this Yuan is talented enough to slaughter the 7 legacy families and our Ji family while we're working together, there's no way that he wouldn't be able to ascend the stairway to heaven. I'm going to notify the family in third heaven. Time is of the essence right now. We cannot allow this criminal who has been sentenced by the heavens to get away with his crimes. The direct descendant of Lord Ji left the room shortly after while everyone else remained in the meeting room to discuss their future. Now that the majority of our forces along with Lord Ji are dead, our family has practically become a chicken on the chopping board waiting to be slaughtered by our enemies. The moment our enemies learn the truth, that our family is defenseless, they will definitely attack us and try to replace us. This is a disaster not just for us. Even those in the upper heavens will be affected by this mess. What can we do? Go into hiding? How many years will it take before we can regain enough strength to manage this realm again? The spirit heavens will be destroyed by the wars that will soon plague this land before then. We cannot do this alone. We've sustained too much damage to survive by ourselves now. Then we can only request for reinforcements and assistance from our family in the upper heavens for the time being. Meanwhile, the 6 spiritual academies were also having a meeting of their own to talk about the recent events. I don't want to make any speculations, but there is only one person that I can think of who could possibly make such a scene. Sect Master Xiahou sighed. Are you talking about Yuan? That was my first thought as well. He also slaughtered the Gu family and the Universal Music Academy. Sect Master Li said. According to our investigation, the corpses there belong to the 7 legacy families and the Ji family. Besides them, who else could possibly amass such a massive army? But why would they attack Yuan? Do you think it has anything to do with what happened at the Spirit Healing Academy? It's possible, but we won't know for sure until we speak with them. Will they even tell us about it? I doubt they would want to talk about such a massive loss. They have to, if they want our support. I highly doubt they will be able to defend themselves after losing so many people. Their families are practically crippled right now. Sect Master Li said. And when a family as prosperous as the 7 legacy families and the Ji family suddenly become this weak, it's inevitable that they become the target of pretty much every power out there. Bianju sighed. We should also prepare ourselves for some visitors from the upper heaven. I doubt they will stay silent after something like this happened. They will most likely come down here to assist their own families. Just like the sect masters had anticipated, the 7 legacy families and the Ji family in the third heaven immediately started preparing to send experts to ambush Yuan at the stairway to heaven after learning of the situation. Furthermore, each family prepared a couple of spirit kings to send to spirit heaven to protect them while they recovered. Even though it will cost them an astronomical amount of resources to send so many experts, they couldn't allow their families in the spirit heaven to perish, not to mention that their techniques and secrets could be stolen by outsiders. The residents in Third Heaven were greatly alarmed when the 7 legacy families and the Ji family suddenly gathered a massive army outside the stairway to heaven. Visit Me for extra chapters. When they eventually learned of the situation in the spirit heaven, they understood why such drastic measures were being taken, and the entire world held their breath while they waited for Yuan to come out of the stairway to heaven, where he would take his last breaths. Meanwhile, inside the stairway to heaven, Yuan opened his eyes after recovering from his exhaustion. Thank you, Tian'er. I feel even better than normal for some reason. Yuan said to her afterward. The spiritual energy inside the stairway to heaven is naturally pure, so you will gain more energy from it, she explained. I am going to climb the stairway to heaven now. Yuan said a moment later. After approaching the staircase, he started climbing it, slowly ascending towards the next realm. Even though it may not seem like it, every step Yuan took inside the stairway to heaven was akin to traveling hundreds of thousands of miles in reality. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at the first trial. For the first trial, you must defend the city and survive for 24 hours. If the casualties in the city surpass 60%, you will fail the trial. Tian'er explained to him. A city defending trial, huh? It's the complete opposite of the previous trial, where I had to kill the city lord. Yuan smiled. A moment later, his scenery began to change. Once he could see clearly again, Yuan found himself inside the peak of a pagoda, and to his surprise, this was the exact same place that had fought the city lord during the first trial in the past. Since I am protecting the city and I am in this place. Does this make me the city lord now? He wondered out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1009. Published at 28th of May 2022 8:52 and 24 seconds AM. Chapter 1009. Chapter 1009. City Lord. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1009. City Lord. Yuan walked to the window and looked outside. The city was quite massive, but it was not so big that he couldn't see the borders from his location. In fact, he could see the entire city up there. I don't see anyone attacking just yet. Yuan thought to himself as he surveyed the city's surroundings. City Lord. A voice suddenly called for him. He turned to look at the door, where a middle-aged man with a cultivation of a peak spirit king stood. What's the matter? We have received a report from our scouts that there is an army of 10,000 approaching the direction of our city from the north, their intentions unknown. They have over 9,000 spirit lords and 1,000 spirit kings. With such forces, I doubt they're coming here to have tea. What are your orders, City Lord? The man reported. Yuan's jaw almost dropped to the ground after hearing the report. Over 1,000 spirit kings? The difficulty has ramped up so much compared to the last trial. He cried inwardly. He wasn't confident that he would be able to defeat such a powerful army even at his current state. Then he realized something. What's the condition of our army looking like? He asked the middle-aged man, who was wearing military armor. We have 1,000 spirit lords and 500 spirit kings ready to be deployed at this moment, said the middle-aged man. That's slightly above 10% of their total forces. This is going to be rough, especially if we wait for them to come. If I want that special reward, I will have to make sure that they don't get close to the city. In order for this to happen, I will have to go to them. After pondering for some time and coming up with a conclusion, Yuan turned to the middle-aged man and spoke. How far away are these people? They're about 2 hours away. Yuan nodded and said, bring half of our forces with me. We're going to intercept them before they can get close to our city. As for the other half, leave them here just in case they have reinforcements. As you command, City Lord. Half an hour later, Yuan and 750 soldiers left the city and made their way towards the north. Sometime later, once they could see the enemy with their eyes, Yuan stopped and said, wait for my order. Yes. The most up-to-date novels are published on Calm, Yuan summoned the Empyrean Overlord and took a deep breath before he started gathering spiritual energy. There's only one way for us to defeat them. Taking them by surprise. When the enemy noticed Yuan and his small army, they stopped for a moment before resuming their movements. In their eyes, there was no way that an army of that size could possibly defeat their army with 10,000 experts. Keep moving. They're probably just here to speak with us. We will pretend to be peaceful, but once we're close enough, we're going to kill all of them. The general leading that armor commanded. Yes. However, the closer they got to Yuan's army, the more they felt uneasy for some reason. General, I think there is something wrong here. Once they were close enough to see Yuan's face, they were surprised. General. That's the city lord. What's he doing out here? I can see that. But this is great. If we can kill him here, his city will be wide open for us to conquer. The general laughed as they continued to approach Yuan. However, once they got close enough, Yuan suddenly released the heavenly sword strike with his full power. A massive beam of sword light flew towards the army that was too close to dodge properly, instantly killing 70% of the people there. The soldiers behind Yuan were shocked speechless after witnessing the scene. Attack them now. I will join you guys after I recover some spiritual energy. He said to them. Visit Riedel. Me for extra chapters. Yes. The soldiers snapped out of their daze and flew towards the opposing army. Thanks to Yuan's heaven-splitting sword strike, the opposing army was in dismay, and they were too dazed to fight properly, allowing Yuan's small army to dominate them. Yuan joined the battle shortly after, quickly killing off everyone there. That was amazing, City Lord. You took out more than half of their army with a single technique. As expected of the City Lord, who is known as the God of War. His soldiers praised him non-stop after the battle. How many casualties were there? Yuan asked them. We have lost several soldiers, 3 Spirit Lord and 1 Spirit King. However, this little amount of casualties is like a miracle considering the size of our enemy's army. Let's return to the city for now. Make sure you reward the families of those that had fallen in battle today. Yuan said to them. Yes. After returning to the city, Yuan stared at the throne on the peak of the pagoda with a pondering face. That man. He called me the God of War. Who is that? Tianyang? Or is he another incarnation? He wondered. After pondering for a moment, he decided to forget about it for now and sat down to cultivate. I still have 20 hours left. I doubt this trial will end just like that. Just as Head predicted, about 4 hours later, the middle-aged man returned with more news. City Lord. I have just received a report that there is another army. They are coming from the west, and they have 20,000 soldiers, 20,000 soldiers. That's doubled compared to the last army. Yuan cried inwardly. At this rate, he will need another massive area of effect technique besides the heaven-splitting sword strike to deal with them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1010. Published at 29th of May 2022 2:09 and 18 seconds AM. Chapter 1010, 1010. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1010, City of Xianham. Wait a second. I learned how to do arrays when I was inside the stairway to heaven. Maybe I can learn some new techniques while I am the lord of this city. Yuan mumbled to himself as he got this genius idea. As the city lord, surely, he should have some decent techniques stored away. Unfortunately, he did not have the time to look for these techniques, as there was an army heading towards his city. Let's go. We're going to do the same thing we did for the last intruder, but we're going to bring more soldiers this time. Yes. The general left to gather the soldiers. Sometime later, they left the city and started flying towards the direction of the intruders. Once they could see the enemies, Yuan repeated what he did to the previous intruders, surprising them with a fully powered heaven-splitting sword strike that changed the landscape and instantly killed thousands of intruders. But alas, even though Head managed to cut the intruders' numbers by 70%, the intruders still outnumbered them immensely. After taking some time to recover his spiritual energy, Yuan joined the battle with the Empyrean Overlord in his grasp and the starry abyss by his side. 10,000 ghost blades. He cloned the starry abyss 10,000 times and used them to assist the other soldiers. The blood of his enemies and allies rained from the sky as the battle raged for many minutes. Half an hour later, Yuan fell to his knees and started gasping for air. Fortunately, the battle had already ended and they were victorious, so he didn't have to worry about the enemies and rested. "Are you okay, City Lord?" His soldiers approached him with worried looks on their faces when they noticed how many injuries were on his body. Even though the intruders were all spirit lords and spirit kings, they were much stronger than the cultivators in the 9 heavens that have the same cultivation base. Even with his invisible dragon cloak, he had sustained injuries. "I am fine. These all are superficial injuries. They will heal in an instant," Yuan said to them. And sure enough, his regeneration ability kicked in the following moment, healing his wounds fast enough for the soldiers to witness it with their bare eyes. If it were not for the invisible dragon cloak weakening most of the damage, that would have been very dangerous. He sighed inwardly. "What about you guys? Are you fine? What about the casualties?" he asked them a moment later. "It's not good. We lost around 300 men." The general shook his head with a pained expression on his face. 300. That's almost a third of the amount of soldiers I brought with me. This is bad. And I still have to survive for over half a day. There will definitely be another invasion or 2 left. If I don't do something, I just might fail the first trial. Yuan was beginning to feel the pressure of the trials. Compared to the last time he challenged the stairway to heaven, the difficulty has truly increased by leaps and bounds. Yuan began regretting his decision to purposefully increase the difficulty of the stairway to heaven by letting Li Jinsi and the others follow him, even though he could have simply challenged the stairway to heaven by himself. After all, the stairway to heaven opened for all of the players when he cleared it the last time. However, it was also true that he didn't want to risk the stairway to heaven not opening for everyone after he cleared it. After returning to the city, Yuan immediately started to cultivate to recover his exhausted spiritual energy. Once he recovered enough spiritual energy, he started looking around the pagoda to see if there were any hidden techniques or treasures inside. He started from the highest floor of the pagoda, slowly making his way down. However, even after searching the entire pagoda, he was unable to find any secret rooms or techniques. "Nothing, huh?" Yuan sighed as he returned to the peak of the pagoda and stared outside the city. After staring at the city for several minutes, Yuan started getting the feeling that he has been to this place before. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Why am I suddenly feeling nostalgic? It's not like I have been here. Actually, I have, but that was during the last trial. I barely looked at the city at that time and rushed straight to this place to challenge the city lord, so it wouldn't make sense that I am feeling nostalgia from that time. After pondering for some time, Yuan could only come to one conclusion. This city. I have definitely been here before, in my past life. The location of this trial. It's not random, is it? Perhaps this place was reconstructed with the memories of my past life? This actually makes a lot of sense, if this is really the case, that this place is from my memories and I am feeling nostalgia, then I should be able to remember it if I dig deep enough like the last time. SSF. XSS. Sometime later, Yuan took a seat in the lotus position and closed his eyes. Once he returned to the deepest parts of his subconsciousness, he started searching through his memories. Although he's only accepted the Divine Paragon's memories at this moment, his other memories would occasionally leak, so he could see bits and pieces of memories from his other identities. Many minutes later, after going through many memories, he eventually found what he was looking for. City of Xian, he muttered the name of the city that he was currently residing in. Once he found what he was looking for, Yuan opened his eyes and flew outside the window. He flew towards the east side of the city until he landed in front of a small but clean building. When he looked at this small building, he couldn't help but feel emotional and shed some tears, even though he didn't know why. After taking a deep breath and calming down a little, he approached it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1011. Published at 29th of May 2022, 4:27 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1011. 1011. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1011. A familiar voice. Once he was in front of the door, Yuan subconsciously opened the door and entered it, all of his movements feeling incredibly natural, almost as though he'd done the same actions for years. Welcome home. A familiar voice suddenly resounded from the second floor. Huh? Yuan raised an eyebrow after hearing this noise. Even without needing to look into his memories, he recognized this voice very well. However, why would this voice appear in this place? That part didn't make sense at all. Yuan ignored everything on the first floor and quickly made his way onto the second floor of the building. There were 3 rooms on the second floor. Only one of these rooms had a closed door, so Yuan approached that room. After knocking on the door, he spoke, "Is it okay if I come inside?" "Of course. This is your room as well." The familiar voice returned again. Yuan swallowed nervously before opening the door very slowly. Once the door was opened wide enough, Yuan looked into the room to see a beautiful mature woman with long black hair sitting on the bed beside the window. This woman had a sharp yet delicate face, and her clear black eyes shimmered like the sea during the summer. When her gaze landed on Yuan, his body trembled. Meishio. Yuan muttered after seeing this mature woman who looked exactly like Meishio but about 10 years older. "What are you mumbling about, you silly? Come over here," she said to him with a gentle smile on her face. Yuan subconsciously started approaching the bed, his eyes staring directly at her face without moving. "What's wrong? Why are you so quiet? Did something happen?" she asked him. "Why yeah. Our city was under attack." "What? Is everything okay?" "For now. I have taken care of them, but there's a good chance that they will return." "I see. Well, as long as we have you, there's nothing to worry about. Isn't that right, God of War, Tian Xian?" "Why yes," he nodded in a dazed manner. "Tian Xian. Surnamed Tian. This is most definitely one of my past lives. So I was a city lord and also the God of War, huh? Anyways, why have you returned home? Don't tell me that you came home just to see me. Although I'm flattered and very happy, I want you to focus on defending the city and its people first. I came back for my techniques. I might need them to defeat our enemies. Do you remember where I put them?" "I forgot," he said in a stiff voice. This kind of excuse would have never worked in the real world, but since this is merely an illusion created by the stairway to heaven, he decided to test his luck. "It seems I have underestimated our situation. For you to forget about something so important, you must be feeling overwhelmed." She sighed. "Yes. A lot of our soldiers have died today, and even more will die at this rate. I'm afraid that I won't be able to protect this city. Come over here." She suddenly opened her arms, gesturing for a hug. Yuan subconsciously lowered his body, and when he did, the woman grabbed his head and pulled it towards her chest. Yuan could feel her soft blossoms pressing against his head, but there was something else that caught his attention when he touched this woman that resembled Meishio. Her stomach. There's something off about it, he thought to himself. A few moments later, the woman said, "Let me show you where the techniques are stored." After releasing him, the woman removed the blankets covering her body. When Yuan saw this woman's body and her bulged stomach, his eyes widened with shock. This is. She's pregnant? Yuan cried inwardly after seeing her round stomach. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. When the woman noticed Yuan staring at her stomach, she smiled and said, "It's been a while since you saw it, huh? The doctor said that I will be able to give birth in 3 months." Yuan swallowed nervously after hearing her words, realizing that this is his first incarnation with a wife and a child. He always thought that he had no family of his own, not even in his previous lives, so this was quite the eye-opener. The woman proceeded to lead Yuan to the basement. The basement was completely empty when they entered it, but Yuan could somehow tell that there was an invisible formation protecting this place, and it was quite powerful, so powerful that even he cannot see it. Once they descended the staircase, the woman retrieved some kind of treasure and activated it using her spiritual energy. A portal opened up in the middle of the room a moment later. What kind of hiding spot is this? There's no way that I would have been able to find this without her help. Yuan cried inwardly after seeing the secret entrance. Upon entering the portal, they appeared inside a small square room that had no windows or gaps. The room was completely enclosed with no way in or out besides the portal in his basement. Inside this enclosed room was a single bookshelf. However, on this bookshelf was a single scroll. Yuan walked to the bookshelf and took the scroll before opening it and glancing over it. After memorizing the contents, Yuan placed the technique back on the shelf and looked at the woman. "Thank you. I think I have what I need to defend this city now," he said with a smile. "That's good to hear. I would like for our child to grow up in this place, after all." She chuckled. They left the secret room and returned to the small 2-floor house shortly after. Yuan followed the woman back to her room. Once she was back in the bed, she said to him, "I'll see you later, dear." "Yes. See you later." Yuan stared at her face for another moment before leaving the place and returning to the pagoda. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 10-12. Published at 29th of May 2022 4:27 and 18 seconds p.m. Chapter 10-12. 1012 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 10-12. He's back. Meishio. Look at that. She looks just like you. Chu Liuxiang exclaimed as she pointed to the mature woman in the spectator's room. However, Meishio was too stumped to even respond to her. She's pregnant? With my face? Are the heavens making fun of me? Are you trying to tell me something? Meishio couldn't believe her eyes. Just the other day, her mother was pressuring her to have a baby with Yuan, and now this. If this wasn't a sign from the gods, what would be? During the last stairway to heaven, there was somebody with your face. Feng Yuxiang suddenly said as she looked at Chu Liuxiang. I remember, she sighed. And she continued, why is the stairway to heaven using our faces, anyway? It seems a bit odd and random. I can only assume that it's trying to stir with the young master's emotions by including people that he cares about into the trials. Feng Yuxiang shrugged. But why a pregnant woman? Meishio shook her head with a bittersweet smile on her face. But you have to admit, it looks very authentic. I wonder if that's what you will look like in 10 years. Li Jinxi said. Meanwhile, Yuan returned to the peak of the pagoda, where he tried to learn the technique inside the secret room. However, the image of Meishio kept on appearing inside his head, thwarting his focus on the technique. This technique is very profound. It should be at least ancient rank, but this means that it will take longer for me to comprehend, and this distraction is not helping. Hopefully, I will be able to learn it before the next invasion. After 3 hours of peace, the general of the army returned. City Lord. I have an emergency report. There is an army of 100,000 soldiers approaching our city from the east and the west. They will arrive in 8 hours. 100,000. Yuan could feel his heart dropping after hearing such a report. Compared to the last invasion, this one was on a whole other level. However, he managed to keep his composure and said, I understand. I will call you when I am ready. Do not disturb me before then no matter what. I will be entering closed-door cultivation now. Yes. The general disappeared shortly after. 8 hours. Will I be able to do it? He sighed inwardly. No. I have to do it. After taking a deep breath, Yuan closed his eyes and cleared his head of all unnecessary thoughts. Once he could focus on the technique, he started reciting the scripture inside his head. Many hours later, where is the city lord? The intruders are less than an hour away from the city. The soldiers approached the general and asked. The city lord is currently in closed-door cultivation. He will appear when the time is right. Even if you say that. Our opponents this time have nearly 100 times our number. And they're attacking us from 2 sides. Even if he's the god of war who hasn't lost a single battle in his life, there is always a first for anything. Perhaps today is the day that the god of war experiences defeat. What kind of nonsense is that? Have faith in the god of war. How many years have we followed him? How many times did we enter battle thinking that it was an impossible fight? How many times has he managed to surprise us? This time will be no different. Even if we're fighting against 1 million soldiers, we will be victorious and remain undefeated. I really hope that will be the case. The soldiers there sighed. Despite the general's words, they couldn't help but fear the worst. After all, they had to fight an army of 100,000 soldiers while only having a little over 1,000 soldiers themselves. Half an hour later, the general received another report from the scout. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. General. The enemy will reach the city walls in 15 minutes. What are your orders? The general turned to look at the tall pagoda that stood proudly in the center of the city and said, We wait for the city lord. We will not move until we receive his order, even if the entire city is burned to the ground. What? That's outrageous. If you want to fight the army by yourself, you are free to do so. However, I will wait for the city lord. The soldiers there looked at each other with perplexed looks on their faces, feeling conflicted. They wanted to trust their general and the city lord, but by doing so, they risked letting the enemy destroy the city. However, once they thought about it, they realized that they were doomed without the city lord, so they had no choice but to wait. Meanwhile, 2 different armies with 50,000 soldiers each quickly approached the city of Xian. I see the city walls. The so-called unconquerable city shall be conquered by my Red Lion army today. Ahahaha. One of the generals laughed out loud as they got closer to the city. Inside the city of Xian, its tiny army began panicking for real when they could see the Red Lion army closing in. Is the city lord still not here? We're doomed. Damn it. I thought I would die on a fierce battlefield. This may be fierce, but this isn't a battlefield. This is a freaking slaughterhouse. Unbeknownst to these soldiers and even the spectators in the spectators' room, an announcement was hovering in the sky for all players to see. Due to how long Cultivation Online has been out, announcements these days were very rare. Although there was still a lot to be discovered in Spirit Heaven, most of the players did not have the capability to explore this vast land. Look at the announcement. He's back. The players exclaimed in excitement when they saw the name in the announcement. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1013. Published at 30th of May 2022 4:27 and 14 seconds p.m. Chapter 1013, 1013. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1013, God of War's Astral Arts, General. The enemy is right outside our city walls. They're demanding that we surrender the city. A soldier reported to the general. However, before he could even respond, a loud and arrogant voice resounded from outside the city, surrender and there won't be unnecessary bloodshed. We have over 100,000 soldiers, all above Spirit Lord. You will not win this battle with your puny army. I would also prefer for this city to be intact after we conquer it. You have half an hour to come to a decision. I repeat. Surrender and we will spare your lives. The only one who has to die is the city lord, Tianxian. The place fell silent afterward. After a few moments of absolute silence, once everyone realized their situation, the entire city of Xian began panicking. City lord. Save us. Where is the god of war when we need him? Do you think a single person can get rid of our predicament? Even if he's the god of war, there's no way that he would be able to defeat an army of 100,000 by himself. What about his army? The army had suffered a huge loss recently after an intense battle that lasted for 30 days and nights straight. We barely have anyone left. Damn it. Are we truly doomed? I have faith in the city lord. He has never disappointed us before. Open your damn eyes. This is an unwinnable battle. Time passed in an instant while the residents of the city panicked for 30 minutes straight. The general outside the city spoke again. Time is up. 30 minutes have passed. We showed mercy, yet you ignored our generosity. Since this is how you want to play, we will play. All forces, charge. Kill everyone who opposes. The 100,000-strong army began rushing towards the city of Xian. However, an immense pressure suddenly enveloped the whole place, forcing the soldiers to halt their steps. The soldiers outside the city and the residents in the city all lifted their heads to look towards the pagoda in the middle of the city, where a majestic figure with an overwhelming aura could be seen hovering in the sky, his presence demanding for everyone's submission. The city lord. It's the city lord. He's finally here to save us. You idiot. Even if he's here, what can he do against such a powerful army? We're still doomed. Meanwhile, ahahaha. You have finally decided to crawl out of your rat hole, god of war. The Red Lion Army's general laughed out loud, his laughter causing ripples in the air. Yuan glanced at the Red Lion Army that surrounded the city. Surrender yourself, god of war. If you do, we won't lay a finger on your city or the residents. The people in the city swallowed nervously, and they all anxiously waited for Yuan's response. Yuan took a deep breath and spoke. I have a slightly different proposal. Get out of my face before I kill all of you. The residents in the city began crying after hearing Yuan's words. We're all dead. It's over for this city. The city lord is too arrogant. All those victories must have got into his head and made him disconnected from reality. If you want to commit suicide, go do it by yourself. Don't drag the rest of us into your madness. The residents of the city that had been loyal to him for many years have finally lost their hope and respect. After all, a righteous and reasonable city lord would sacrifice himself for his city without hesitation. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. However, Yuan ignored the complaints coming from beneath him, as he was sure that it was the stairway to heaven trying to stir his emotions. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath as he recited the technique he had just learned inside his head. When he opened his eyes, they glowed golden, and a subtle but visible golden aura started appearing from his body. He summoned the Empyrean Overlord and spoke in a cold voice, all of you will be my training puppets for today. God of War's astral arts. The people there watched as Yuan's golden aura started expanding at a rapid rate until it was large enough to cover the entire city of Xian. Once it stopped growing, the aura began transforming until it resembled half a human wearing a golden armor. Furthermore, it had two massive arms that were wielding a large greatsword that resembled the Empyrean Overlord. What in heaven's name is that technique? The intruders cried out loud when they saw the giant behind Yuan, feeling as though they were ants before an elephant. I need to finish this fast. I can feel my strength being exhausted at a ridiculous rate. Yuan cried inwardly after realizing how much energy this technique required. He took a deep breath before swinging the Empyrean Overlord in his grasp, and the astral avatar followed his movements, sweeping the army outside the city with its massive sword. Boom! The entire ground viciously shook, and an unimaginable crater appeared in the ground where one of the armies stood. As for the army, they were all completely flattened with a single strike, all 50,000 of them. When the other armies saw the destruction caused by the astral avatar, their faces paled. Scatter! Scatter! The general leading that army roared. But alas, the astral avatar was already in a swinging motion. The ground shook for a second time when the first earthquake hadn't even ended yet. After killing all 100,000 soldiers from the Red Lion army with 2 mere strikes, Yuan deactivated the technique and immediately returned to the pagoda to rest, not even bothering to look at the destruction had caused. The entire city was dead silent afterward, and it would remain silent for many minutes with not a single person there believing what they had just witnessed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1014. Published at 30th of May 2022 4:27 and 13 seconds p.m. Chapter 1014. 1014 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1014. Proceeding to the second trial. What in heaven's name was that technique just now? I have never seen anything remotely that powerful before. Feng Yuxiang cried out loud after seeing Yuan decimate an entire army of 100,000 spirit lords and spirit kings with 2 strikes. I have never seen Brother Yuan use that technique before. He must have just learned it. Xiao Hua said. You can actually learn techniques while doing trials in the stairway to heaven? How come I have never heard of such a thing? And judging by the prowess of that technique, I dare say that it's at least an ancient rank technique if not mythic rank. Feng Yuxiang was in disbelief. If people realized that they could learn such powerful techniques inside the stairway to heaven for free, there would definitely be a massive uproar throughout the 9 heavens. Meanwhile, back at the pagoda, Yuan gave up on trying to recover his soul strength after realizing that he didn't have any cultivation techniques that recovered his soul strength. Unlike spiritual energy, soul strength could not be restored through ordinary cultivation techniques. In order to recover soul strength faster than naturally allowed, one must know a soul cultivation technique, but these techniques are incredibly rare even in the upper heavens. Looks like I won't be able to use the God of War's astral arts until my soul strength naturally recovers. Fortunately, I can still use my other techniques that only require spiritual energy. He sighed inwardly. Despite the God of War's astral arts' immense power and seemingly unlimited potential, it was not something he could use too often at this moment. Until he acquires a soul cultivation technique, he will have to limit its usage for life or death situations. After giving up trying to restore his soul strength, Yuan looked at the amount of time he had left. Less than 15 minutes left. Sometime later, he returned to the house with the woman who looked exactly like Meishio. Is everything okay? She asked him as she gently rubbed her round stomach. Yes, I have dealt with the intruders. The city is safe again. He nodded. That's good to hear. Now our child can grow up in the city that you have painstakingly protected and developed, she said with a beautiful smile on her face. Have you thought of a name for the child yet? Yuan suddenly asked out of curiosity. No, not yet. I was hoping we could name her together. It's a girl, huh? He smiled. Here you go. The woman suddenly extended her hands, offering him a glowing orb of light. Thank you. Yuan accepted the orb of light and absorbed it. However, his cultivation base did not increase like the previous reward. Instead, he could feel his soul strength becoming stronger. Wow, this reward is actually much better than I initially thought. It's definitely countless times better than just increasing my cultivation base. Yuan thought to himself after realizing what the bonus reward was. The city of Xian disappeared before Yuan's eyes, and he returned to the stairway to heaven shortly after. Congratulations on passing the trial, Master. Do you wish to rest? You are allowed an hour to rest. Tian'er said to him. He nodded, yes, I will rest this time. Even though his spiritual energy was full, he wanted to allow his soul strength to recover even if it's just slightly. He had a feeling that the God of War's astral arts was going to be crucial for his upcoming trials. Oh. My soul strength is recovering faster than normal out here. Yuan quickly realized this as he sat down to monitor his recovery. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. An hour later, Yuan stood up and proceeded on to the next trial. For the second trial, you must protect the Huang family while they exchange their valuables in the Giant's continent. Oh. Is it the same Huang family as the previous trial? So we're going to continue where we left off, huh? Yuan was a little excited to meet with the Huang family again, especially Huang Shaoli, who taught him array symbols. The scenery began changing, and before he realized, he was standing on the ship deck while surrounded by water. Why are you standing there in a daze, Yuan? A familiar voice suddenly resounded, causing Yuan to turn around. Standing behind him was a beautiful young lady with a bright smile on her face. Of course, she was Huang Shaoli, who also resembled Chu Liuxiang. It's been a while, Shaoli, he said with a gentle smile on his face. What are you talking about? Are you still daydreaming? You should snap out of it since we're about to land. Look over there, that's the Giant's continent. She pointed at the massive island in the distance. However, Yuan wasn't paying attention to the island. Instead, he was focused on Huang Shaoli. Her cultivation hasn't changed. She's still a spirit grandmaster. The same goes for everyone on this boat. It's almost as though ID never left in the first place for them. He thought the stairway to heaven would scale these people to his level since this was a new and more difficult trial, but that didn't seem to be the case. Sometime later, the ship stopped moving once it reached land, and everyone on board started to disembark. Yuan, are you ready? We have only 14 days to exchange our treasures and come back, or we will be stuck here for a very long time. Huang Shaoli said to him. 14 days. I really hope this isn't how long the trial will take. He sighed inwardly as he disembarked the ship with the Huang family and the other bodyguards. XSS. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 10:15. Published at 31st of May 2022 2:18 and 6 seconds p.m. Chapter 10:15, 1015. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 10:15, Mammoth Bloodline. After disembarking from the ship, Yuan followed Huang Shaoli and her family onto the land. Giant's continent. It's not in Tian Chenji's memories. Did this place exist before his birth or after his death? He wondered as he followed them. Sometime later, he asked out of curiosity, where are we going now? We're going to the southern stronghold. It's where most travelers like us go to exchange treasures with giants, so it's quite popular. Huang Shaoli said. I don't know much about giants. Can you tell me about them? Sure. She nodded with enthusiasm, and she continued, giants are humans with the mammoth bloodline. Their ancestors were ordinary humans that have trained a unique technique called the Great Mammoth Body Refinement that gave them immense strength and a near indestructible body, but it also increased their body size temporarily. Their ancestors not only reached the peak with this technique, they had even altered it so that the technique would continuously affect their bodies and never deactivate, making them giants permanently. However, because such a feat required them to alter their genes and blood, their descendants would also be born with such blood and genes in their body, making them giants at birth. Yuan was speechless after hearing this information. The speed was too fast, and with a swoosh, Wang Xian was pulled into the whirlpool, like a little crucian carp that had been hooked and was violently pulled out of the water. Giants used to be humans before they altered their blood and genes with a technique? He didn't know techniques were even capable of such a feat, which was akin to creating their own bloodline and race. Huang Shaoli continued to speak. The giants created their own family, and after cultivating that family for thousands of years, they moved to an uninhabited land that would soon to be known as the Giants' continent. Giants nowadays are mostly isolated within the Giants' continent, so you won't see them outside. In fact, most people live their entire life without meeting one. They're practically phoenixes and dragons. However, since they rarely leave the continent, they mostly rely on travelers like us to provide them with resources and treasures from the outside. It benefits us as well because there are resources and treasures that can only be found within the giant's continent. That's pretty neat, I guess. Yuan mumbled. Indeed. If you have any treasures you don't need, you can try to exchange or sell them to the giants. A bittersweet smile appeared on his face after hearing her words. Even if he had plenty of treasures that he could and wanted to trade, he wouldn't actually acquire anything because he was inside the stairway to heaven and nothing there was real. If you're dare to fish against him like this, no matter if it's a strange thing on a mobile phone or that ferocious giant fish, you'll have to pay the price. Although I can learn techniques in the stairway to heaven, that is only possible because they only need to be memorized. However, treasures don't work that way. It's impossible for me to acquire real treasures during trials. How unfortunate. He sighed inwardly, thinking how nice it would be if he could actually acquire something from the trial. Suddenly, the head of the bodyguards, Dong Zhou, shouted, "We have company." Yuan panicked a little when he heard Dong Zhou's voice because he didn't sense anything with his divine sense that he's kept active this whole time. However, sure enough, something appeared before them a few seconds later, and it was a massive bird that was so big that it could easily lift an entire building with one of its claws. Seeing this massive bird that came out of thin air, Yuan prepared to attack it, but then he realized its cultivation base was in the Spirit Emperor realm. Spirit Emperor Magical Beast. This is my first time fighting an opponent of this level. He cried inwardly. Yuan. It's coming. Huang Shaoli shouted. A fizzy is mocking him. Yuan immediately snapped out of his daze and confronted this massive bird in the sky right as it tried to dive down. Ha! He enveloped the Empyrean Overlord with sword chi before sending it in the magical beast's way. Caw! The bird released a painful scream when it lost one of its claws to Yuan, who was surprised because had expected to kill the bird with that strike. And however, before he could get another strike on the bird, it turned around and flew away, leaving him speechless. It ran away. He muttered in a dumbfounded voice. Are you okay, Yuan? Huang Shaoli approached him afterward. Then, it was noisy and motionless. Instead of reviving here, it chose to disguise it. Yes, I am fine. But that magical beast was stronger than I anticipated. After all, under normal circumstances, his attack just now would have killed even a spirit emperor with ease. I forgot to mention this, but giants are not the only entity on this continent with the mammoth bloodline. The magical beasts on this continent also have it, she said to him. What? How is that even possible? I thought the giants' ancestors only managed to achieve such a feat through a technique. There's no way ordinary magical beasts could possibly comprehend techniques, much less master them. You're right, but the magical beasts did not acquire the mammoth bloodline through techniques. They acquired it through consuming the giants. I mentioned that the technique is never-ending, right? This is still true even when the giants die, so when a magical beast consumes their flesh and blood, they also acquire the power of giants. Heavens, Yuan was speechless by this information. Since the magical beasts in the giants' continent also had the mammoth bloodline coursing through their veins, they were much stronger than ordinary magical beasts from the outside. If one's piece of sword energy can't solve the problem, then take a few more pieces. Wang Xian is going to kill it. It seems we have underestimated the strength of this place. We're not strong enough to do our job as bodyguards, so we'll have to rely on you, Yuan. Dong Zhou approached him and said. Sure, he sighed, silently wondering to himself why the stairway to heaven didn't make the bodyguards at least spirit kings so that they wouldn't be completely useless. After all, in their current state, they were nothing but a burden to him. Since you're all too weak to traverse this land, why don't you just return to the ship and wait for us to return? Yuan said to him a moment later. We cannot do that. Even if we're not strong enough to fight the entities on this land, we must still do our jobs as bodyguards and accompany the Huang family even if we die in the process. Dong Zhou exclaimed in a prideful voice. Yuan felt like facepalming. If you cannot do your duties as a bodyguard, can you still be considered as one? He cried inwardly. Yuan eventually stopped thinking about it since it was most likely done by the stairway to heaven to make things more difficult for him. Just so you know, I am here to protect the Huang family, so if you get in any trouble, don't worry, we won't drag you down. Dong Zhou said with a confident smile. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yeah. I somehow doubt that, he shook his head. After walking for about half an hour without encountering any magical beasts, Huang Shaoli pointed at the city walls in the distance and said in an excited voice, we're almost there. I can see the southern stronghold. They quickened their moving speed after seeing the city. However, as they got closer, Dong Zhou suddenly stopped and shouted, we're surrounded. Yuan looked around, and sure enough, a pack of massive birds quickly surrounded them, and amongst these magical beasts was one with an injured claw, the same one had fought. So you ran away to call your friends, huh? Yuan couldn't help but chuckle at its efforts. After a quick glance, he counted 9 of these birds, and they all emitted the aura of a spirit emperor. I won't be able to fight all of them at once and protect the Huang family at the same time with my ordinary techniques. I will have to use the God of War's astral arts. He sighed inwardly, feeling a little embarrassed to use his trump card so early on in the trial. Although he could kill these magical beasts even without the God of War's astral arts, he wouldn't be able to protect the Huang family, and his priority was to keep all of them alive for the bonus reward. After taking a deep breath, Yuan used the God of War's astral arts. The Huang family and the bodyguards were shocked speechless after witnessing the massive golden figure. As for the birds, they started making weird noises, almost as though they were panicking. Die. Not wanting to waste his soul strength too much, Yuan immediately attacked the birds with a 360 sword swing, killing all of them at once. However, the attack was so powerful that it created a powerful gust of wind that swept in all directions. In fact, the southern stronghold thought they were under attack when they saw the golden figure that looked massive even though they were quite far away from Yuan's location. Yuan quickly deactivated the technique after killing the magical beasts. Are you okay? Huang Shaoli asked him in a worried voice after seeing his poor condition. Yes, I am fine. That technique uses up a lot of soul strength, so I am a little tired, mentally. Give me a few minutes to recover. All right. They nodded. A few minutes later, once Yuan was feeling better, they continued their journey to the southern stronghold, unaware of the chaos that was occurring within the city due to Yuan's God of War's astral arts. After another hour of traveling, they arrived at the entrance of the city. So that's a giant, huh? Yuan was amazed when he saw the 2 giants guarding the entrance to the city, both of them being around 10 meters tall with a broad frame and incredible muscles that looked like they could crush an entire mountain. Besides their massive size, they look just like humans. I guess it's true that their ancestors were originally normal humans. Yuan thought to himself as they approached these giants. And chapters for CO will be longer starting June. Also, check out Magic System in a parallel world while you wait for the next chapter. It has long chapters just like this one. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1016. Published at 1st of June 2022 2:18 and 22 p.m. Chapter 1016, 1016. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1016, serious accusations. As they got closer to the giants, Yuan could feel their gaze on him, and sure enough, when he looked at them, their eyes were glaring directly at him for some reason. Yuan wanted to ignore them, but when they got close enough to the entrance of the city, the giants suddenly stepped in front of the entrance, blocking their path. The Huang family were quite baffled by their actions. Unlike cities outside the giants' continent, the southern stronghold did not require for them to pay any entrance fees, nor did they care about your background, so there was literally no reason why they should be blocking the entrance. Is there something wrong, seniors? Huang Chen, Huang Shaoli's father, asked the guard in a polite tone. The guards pointed at Yuan and asked, "Who are you? What is your purpose?" Yuan raised an eyebrow and said in a calm voice, "I am Yuan, and I am their bodyguard." The guards turned to look at Huang Chen for confirmation. "That's right. He's a bodyguard that I hired to protect my family. It was because of him that we, and everyone else on the ship were able to survive a flying leviathan and arrive at the giant's continent safely." Huang Chen nodded. "You defeated a flying leviathan?" The guards appeared to be surprised after learning about his feats. The two of them exchanged looks with each other for a moment before stepping out of the way. "Thank you, seniors." Huang Chen bowed to them before they started moving again, entering the southern stronghold shortly after. "What was that about?" Yuan asked them. "I don't know, but giants respect and prioritize one's strength above all else." Huang Chen shook his head. Once they entered the city, Yuan was dumbfounded by the scenery inside. All of the buildings in this place were massive and about 10 times larger than the buildings that he was used to seeing, not to mention the amount of giants walking around the city, making him feel really tiny in this place, just like an ant. Furthermore, he also noticed that the giants in this place really varied in terms of their size. Some of them were only as tall as 4 meters while there were giants as tall as 15 meters. "You're probably wondering about their sizes, right?" Huang Shaoli suddenly said to him. "You're right. I thought all giants were as big as the guards outside, but that doesn't seem to be the case." He nodded. "It depends on the strength of their mammoth bloodline. The purer and stronger their bloodline, the bigger they will turn out to be. In the giant's continent, a giant's size is akin to a cultivator's innate talent, so those with a smaller body are considered trash while those with a large body are considered geniuses," she explained. "If you're surprised now, just wait until you see giants that are as big as a mountain." Yuan's eyes widened. As big as a mountain? No wonder why they refuse to leave the giant's continent. They won't be able to do anything outside with such huge bodies. Sometime later, they went to a hotel to settle down. Although most of the hotels there were built specifically for giants, there were also hotels specifically built for humans like them. Once inside the hotel, Huang Chen gathered everyone there and said, "We will rest today, but starting tomorrow, I will be looking to exchange our treasures with the giants. I will leave 2 of you here to guard my family while the rest will follow me." Yuan frowned upon hearing his words. "I won't be able to protect all of them if we split into 2 groups. Perhaps I should convince them to go together, but they have a child." He glanced at the 7-year-old boy beside his mother. Maybe it would actually be safer to leave him and the mother here. He sighed inwardly. With so many giants walking outside, things could get ugly really fast if they take such a small child outside. After all, he was so tiny compared to some of the giants that they could easily step on him by accident and not even realize it. Of course, this also applied to the mother, who had the lowest cultivation base besides the child who was still too young to cultivate. However, there was another issue: the bodyguards. He wasn't confident in their abilities at all. In fact, they will probably be useless since this trial was countless times more difficult than the last trial, yet their strength remained the same as the last trial. In other words, they were nothing more than burdens. Furthermore, these guys. Yuan narrowed his eyes at the bodyguards, his thoughts unknown. After Huang Chen finished everything he had to say, Yuan approached Huang Shaoli with a smile and said to her in a low voice, "Excuse me, Shaoli. Do you mind if I borrow some of your time? I would like to speak to you in private." "Sure," she nodded in a dazed manner, feeling a little nervous about the aura around him. "Follow me." Yuan nodded and followed her into another room. Once she locked the door, she asked him, "So what do you want to talk about? Did something happen? You seem a little more serious than usual." "Yes. It's about," Yuan proceeded to tell her what's been on his mind. Huang Shaoli's eyes widened more and more with shock as she listened to his words. "Are you sure about that? Those are some serious accusations," she exclaimed in a low voice. He nodded with a serious frown. "I didn't notice it before because I was still inexperienced. However, I am certain about my claims. I don't mind dealing with it right now, but I can tell that you're doubtful, so I am going to prove it to you first. How are you going to do that? Yuan proceeded to tell her about his plans. All full. Calm, seriously. You want me to, do you trust me? Yuan suddenly asked her with a serious expression. I risked my life to defend the ship and your Huang family. I wouldn't do anything to hurt you or your family, I promise. Oh, of course I trust you. Huang Xiaoli's face quickly flushed with redness when she recalled what she tried to do with him right before the flying Leviathan's attack. A moment later, she took a deep breath and nodded with a serious expression. All right, let's do it. Thank you. You won't regret it, I promise. Yuan smiled. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The two of them left the room after talking for several more minutes. Is everything okay, Yuan? Huang Chen approached him shortly after he left the room with Huang Xiaoli. Father, I need to speak with you. Mother, you too. Huang Xiaoli suddenly said to them. Huang Chen looked at them with raised eyebrows, but he didn't ask any questions and followed Huang Xiaoli to another room. Once the Huang family was gone, the other guards approached Yuan and asked him, what happened? Is everything okay? The young lady looked very annoyed. I hope you didn't try to confess your love for her just now. You're just a bodyguard. Know your place. The female bodyguard said to him with a mocking gaze. Yuan didn't take her insults to heart and even chuckled at it. Don't worry, it's nothing like that. However, it's true that something did happen. The guards swallowed nervously as they waited for him to speak. I would tell you, but I think it would be for the best if the Huang family told you. It's their business, after all. He shrugged, not willingly to tell them anything. Come on. Don't be like that. Qin Kai, who was the bulky bodyguard that guarded the Huang family's room with him while they were still sailing, said. I don't want to lose my job, so I will have to refrain from it. Whatever. Keep your stupid little secret. The other bodyguards shook their heads and stopped bothering him. Sometime later, the Huang family finished their little meeting and came out of the room, but Huang Chen and his wife looked really upset for some reason. This made the guards really nervous, and they all wondered inwardly about the issue. Huang Chen gathered the bodyguards again and said, there will be some changes in our plans. I will start exchanging my treasures today, so I want 2 people to follow me. He looked at Yuan and his head bodyguard Dong Zhou. Yuan and Dong Zhou, you'll be coming with me. Xiaoli, you'll also come with me. The rest of you will stay behind to protect my wife and son. Do not let anyone besides us enter this place no matter what. Yes. They all said. Before they left, Huang Chen said to his wife in a low voice, since we have too many treasures, I will leave half of it with you. If anything happens to us, I want you to take the treasures and go home. Don't say something so ominous. As long as you have Yuan with you, he'll keep you safe. She said with a smile. Yuan left the hotel with his group shortly after. Once they were outside, Dong Zhou couldn't help but ask, sorry if I am being noisy, but what was that about? I will tell you about it in a bit. Huang Chen said. Dong Zhou has never seen Huang Chen so serious before, making him worried as well. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1017. Published at 1st of June 2022 2:18 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1017, 1017. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1017. The gold and money bandits. Shortly after Yuan's group left to exchange treasures, the bodyguards that had remained at the hotel watched from the windows as Yuan and the others disappeared from the scene. Those nuisances have finally left. The female bodyguard sneered. Should we do it now? This is the best time. That little bastard with too much power for someone at his age and level is gone, as well as the array master and even Huang Chen and his daughter. Nobody here can stop us now, said one of the male bodyguards. I don't know. This seems a little too easy. Not to mention whatever just happened. Something about all of this doesn't sit right with me, said a different bodyguard. Who cares? We can kill the woman and the kid and rob them of all of their treasures long before they will be able to do anything about it. The female bodyguard showed a grim smile on her face. I say we should do it as well. I doubt there will be another chance like this. What about that other bodyguard? He might cause us some trouble. I can handle him, said the female bodyguard with a suggestive expression on her face. In the end, these bodyguards decided to finally execute their plan by robbing the Huang family. These three bodyguards actually knew each other before they got hired by the Huang family, as they all belonged to a renowned gang that was infamous for their vicious deeds and brutal nature. The Gold and Money Bandits. They were a group of lawless cultivators that would dare to rob and kill even mortals, something only evil cultivators would do. In fact, there were even more of these bandits at the bodyguard recruitment, but most of them had been disqualified and only these three had managed to pass. They had planned on robbing the Huang family when they were still at sea, but Yuan did not give them any chance, and when they saw how powerful he actually was, they decided to delay their plans until they could find an opportunity to rob the Huang family. Now that they have finally encountered that opportunity, they were enticed to finally execute their plans and rob the Huang family. Meanwhile, a few minutes after they left the hotel, Huang Chen revealed the whole situation to Dong Zhou, who had been kept in the dark until now. What? Those bodyguards harbor ill intentions? Are you sure this is accurate information? Dong Zhou doubted this information, mostly because he didn't want to believe that he had accidentally recruited bandits to be their bodyguards, as he could be held responsible for this blunder. It's true. I wasn't certain at first, but after watching them for some time, I can say with certainty that they are bandits. Their bodies reeked of blood and their eyes are filled with greed. Do you remember when we were attacked in the ship? I believe they were working together since they all gave off the same aura. And Yuan wouldn't lie to us. He risked his life fighting the flying Leviathan, too. Huang Shaoli backed him up. Dong Zhou frowned and said, if what you say is true, then isn't it incredibly dangerous and reckless to leave the madam and the young master alone with them? We're basically giving them to those bastards on a silver platter. If we didn't leave, they would not act. I also wanted to prove to all of you that they are not what they seem. Don't worry, I won't let them touch even a hair on the Huang family. What the hell can you do when you're here with us? This is madness. Dong Zhou exclaimed. I trust him. Huang Chen suddenly said. Are you serious, Master Huang? What if he's only doing this to mislead us? What if he's actually working with those bandits? Yuan smiled after hearing his words and said in a calm voice, do you really think I need to make such an elaborate plan just to rob the Huang family? Have you not seen what I am capable of? If I want to rob you guys, I wouldn't need to pretend to be a bodyguard and wait until you lower your guard, much less come all the way out here and risk my life fighting the flying Leviathan. If I truly wanted to rob you guys, I would have done so before we boarded the ship, and none of you would have been able to stop me. Dong Zhou swallowed nervously when he called how Yuan had killed multiple spirit emperors with a single strike. Sorry. I was just talking out of my ass just now, Dong Zhou sighed out loud. Yuan suddenly turned around and looked at the direction of the hotel. Let's return. They're finally moving, he said to them. Back at the hotel, the female bandit approached Qin Kai and started flirting with him. I have been wanting to speak with you for a while now, but I didn't get any chance. You know, I love men with muscles, and when I first saw you, I knew right away that I wanted you. You're the reason I even decided to become a bodyguard for the Huang family. Qin Kai swallowed nervously after hearing her words. Seriously? The female bandit was actually quite attractive, and Qin Kai had little to no experience when it comes to women, making him an easy target. Let's go elsewhere to talk, shall we? She winked at him. Sure. Qin Kai followed her to another room. Panda novel. Once the other two bandits saw this, they smiled and turned their focus to the room with the mother and wife. Let's go. The two of them quietly approached the room. Once they were close enough, one of them tried to open the door in a sneaky manner. When the bandit couldn't feel any resistance from the door, the smile on his face widened. Ready? Of course. The bandit immediately opened the door, and the two of them entered the room before closing it again. What are you two doing in here? I don't remember calling either of you. The mother said to them with a frown on her face. Don't worry, we'll leave you alone once we take all of your treasures and kill you, said one of the bandits. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. You what? The gold and money bandits, have you heard of us? The mother's eyes widened with shock after hearing that name. I see. So you became our bodyguards just to steal from us, huh? We should have been more diligent when recruiting bodyguards, but we were in a rush. Then you can only blame yourself. I would love to enjoy my time with you before killing you, but we're short on time, so I am just going to kill you. They retrieved their weapons. However, the mother managed to calm down, and she even smiled. What a pity. A pity indeed. One of the bandits suddenly rushed forward while swinging his dagger, but before he could reach the mother, he felt a burst of pain in his chest, forcing him to look down. What the fuck? He muttered in a dumbfounded voice when he saw that a hole had mysteriously appeared in his chest. Thud. The bandit fell to the floor and died before he could even realize what had happened to him. The other bandit stood there with a dazed look on his face as his eyes stared at his companion's lifeless body on the floor. Despite seeing everything that had just happened, he still couldn't comprehend the situation. The door behind him suddenly opened, and a figure calmly walked into the room. Are you okay? Madame Huang? Yuan asked her with a calm smile on his face. Why you are? How in heaven's name? The bandit was shocked when he saw Yuan standing right beside him. Did you really think that I wouldn't notice the way you idiots looked at the Huang family? When you look at them, you only see money and profit, and it reminds me of a certain miserable couple. Yuan sneered in a cold voice. Senior Huang. Shaoli. What do you think? Is this enough proof? He asked them, who were standing right behind the bandit with deep frowns on their faces. Yes, this is more than enough proof. Thank you very much, Yuan. You have saved our family yet again. Huang Chen said. It was at this moment the female bandit and Qin Kai came out of their room after hearing the commotion. What is happening? Qin Kai exclaimed with a shocked look on his face when he saw the incomprehensible situation. As for the female bandit, she was simply speechless. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1018. Published at 2nd of June 2022 5:30 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1018, 1018 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1018, I will accept your challenge. Huang Chen frowned when he saw the female bandit and Qin Kai. Where the hell have you two been? My family was being attacked and you're screwing each other in another room? Why did I even hire you? What? Attacked. By whom? Qin Kai was truly puzzled, as he was not part of the gold and money bandits. Furthermore, everything had happened so fast that he was still comprehending the situation. Why don't you take a look for yourself? Huang Shaoli pointed into the room with Yuan and the bandits. Qin Kai swallowed nervously and approached the room. His eyes widened with shock when he saw the scene inside. One of the bodyguards was dead with a hole in his chest and the other was frozen in place with a terrified expression on his face. What is the meaning of this? Qin Kai asked. These two are bandits from the gold and money bandits. They became a bodyguard just to rob the Huang family. Yuan calmly explained the situation to him. The gold and money bandits? Qin Kai immediately recognized their name. As someone who often works as a bodyguard, he has encountered these bandits on multiple occasions, and they were all vicious people with no morals. Murder, robbery, corruption, rape, nothing was off the table for these bandits even if mortals were involved, hence why they were so hated and so feared. The female bandit also took a look inside the room. Her heart throbbed so fast and hard from fear that it began hurting. Fortunately, they didn't catch me in the act, so they don't know that I am with them just yet. But if they ask that bastard, he will surely give me away. She calmed down slightly after realizing this, and she began plotting to kill her companion before he could speak. However, with Yuan in the room, she didn't dare to move just yet. So tell me, what were the two of you doing while my family was attacked? Are you also part of the gold and money bandits? Huang Chen narrowed his eyes at Qin Kai and the female bandit. What? Hell no. There's no way I am with those bastards. That's right. We were in the other room because I wanted to make love to him. I didn't know they were bandits. I swear. The female bandit said. The other bandit cursed inwardly after hearing her companion's words. That fucking bitch. She's the whole reason we're in this mess. If she didn't make the suggestion to rob the Huang family, we wouldn't be here. And now she wants to act innocent while the two of us die? After taking a deep breath, the male bandit exclaimed, that bitch is lying. She's with us. She was the one who suggested we rob you guys, too. The female bandit gritted her teeth in anger, but she wasn't willing to give up just yet. That's preposterous. He's only saying that because he's jealous I chose Qin Kai over him. He's been eyeing me since the beginning, too. She's lying. Her real name is Zhou Nuying, and she has a high position within the gold and money bandits. The reason she went to make love with Qin Kai was so that she could distract him while we robbed the Huang family. Is that so? What do you have to say to these accusations, Zhou Nuying? Huang Chen glared at her with killing intent within his gaze. Zhou Nuying swallowed nervously. She knew that she was done for and that there was no way for her to talk herself out of this situation. Therefore, she decided to escape. Watch out. He's going to attack. Zhou Nuying suddenly shouted while pointing at her companion. Everyone there subconsciously turned to look. This is my chance. Zhou Nuying suddenly retrieved 2 smoke bombs and smashed them on the floor, instantly filling the room with smoke that also contained some kind of material that weakened the spiritual energy in the area and even blocked Yuan's divine sense. She proceeded to rush towards the window, but since the entire place was filled with smoke, she could only rely on her memories. Once she could feel the window, she smashed right through it with her body and escaped the hotel. Yuan wanted to chase after her, but he didn't want to leave the Huang family behind, and he had to make sure the other bandit didn't try to do anything funny. Is everyone okay? Huang Shaoli's voice resounded shortly after. Yes, I am okay. Me too. Everyone there confirmed their safety. Once the smoke finally cleared, Yuan asked, what should we do with him? I can kill him here if you want. I want all of his information before we kill him. Dong Zhou, make him talk. Yes. Dong Zhou proceeded to drag the bandit to another room, where he would torture the bandit for all of his information. Meanwhile, Huang Chen went to speak with the hotel managers to let them know of the situation. The servants in the hotel cleaned up the mess and the corpse without much trouble. Once everything was done, Huang Chen thanked Yuan for his efforts. Thank you, Yuan. If it hadn't been for your sharp eyes, our Huang family would have ended in a tragedy. I will definitely reward you handsomely at the end of our trip. Yuan shook his head and said with a smile, I am only doing my job as a bodyguard. What should we do about the one who ran away? Dong Zhou asked. I don't want to waste time and resources looking for her in this vast place. She could be anywhere by now. However, if we run into her again, immediately kill her. Huang Chen said. Yes. What should we do now? We're down to 3 bodyguards, Madame Huang asked sometime later. Dong Zhou and Qin Kai can stay here and protect you here. Since we have taken care of the bandit situation, I doubt anyone else would try to attack you guys. The one who escaped won't dare to return either. I can protect Senior Huang by myself when he goes outside. Yuan said. I will also pay the hotel extra for their security service. Huang Chen said. What about me? I also want to go with you guys. Huang Shaoli suddenly asked. Only if you promise to not cause any trouble. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. What? Since when have I caused any troubles? Always. Huang Chen smiled. Sometime later, Huang Shaoli approached Yuan and asked him, want to look around the city with me? I have already asked my father for permission. He turned to look at Huang Chen, who nodded his head with a bittersweet smile on his face. All right, let's look around. Please take care of my daughter, Yuan. Huang Chen said to him before they left the hotel and started wandering the city. What do you think about the Giant's continent so far? Huang Shaoli asked him as they looked around. It's very unique, that's for sure. He said. Not just the environment, but even the people are vastly different from each other. Honestly, it feels like I am in a dream. Huang Shaoli chuckled and spoke, that's what I felt during my first visit to this place. However, while it's nice to visit this place, I wouldn't want to live here for too long. It's simply too dangerous for human cultivators, and only powerful cultivators would dare to wander outside the cities. Sometime later, the two of them stopped when they noticed a group of giants surrounding what appeared to be a massive platform. What are they doing? Yuan asked when he saw this. Ah, there must be a match going on right now, she said. A match? In the middle of the city? Yes. One thing you should know about giants is that they love to fight, so there are platforms placed all around the city. Yuan suddenly recalled the ancestral dragon temple in the ancient dragon city. The two of them approached the crowd to get a closer look at the match. Once they were close enough, they could see two giants fighting each other with their bare fists. No weapon or armor could be seen. The two giants threw fists at each other like their lives depended on it, and every time their fist struck its target, a weak ripple would sweep the place. Wow! What tremendous strength! Yuan thought to himself as he watched the giants plummet each other until one of them could no longer stand. Once the match ended, the winner shouted, "Who also wants to experience my strength? I welcome all challengers. The winner will receive a divine rank body refining technique." Yuan raised an eyebrow after hearing the giant's words. A divine rank body refining technique? That sounds like something that could benefit me. He thought. Don't tell me you're thinking about fighting him, Huang Shaoli suddenly said, almost as though she could see his thoughts. I wouldn't suggest it. You're not allowed to use any offensive techniques or treasures, so you can only fight him with your body. That giant must also be hiding his strength. After all, there's no way he would be willing to give away a divine rank technique so easily. Yuan smiled and said, "It's fine. My body is sturdier than it looks. Even if I lose, I want to see for myself just how strong giants are." He then jumped onto the stage and said out loud, "I will take on your challenge." The giants were stunned when a tiny human appeared on the stage, and after a moment of silence, they all burst out laughing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1019. Published at 2nd of June 2022 5:30 and 18 seconds p.m. Chapter 1019, 1019. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1019. The prowess of a giant. You, a mere human, wishes to challenge me, a giant, to a match of strength? Ahahaha. This is the funniest joke I have heard all week long. The 11 meters tall giant laughed out loud after being challenged by Yuan, his laughter causing the air to tremble. Why not? It's not our size that matters, but our strength, right? Yuan responded with a calm smile on his face. Is this your first time to the giant's continent, little guy? Have you ever fought a giant before? Giants are at the top when it comes to natural strength. No human has ever beaten a giant when it comes to pure strength. am afraid that I might accidentally kill you if we fought. However, if you're still willing to take such a risk, then I will gladly be your opponent. I am willing to take such a risk. Yuan nodded with confidence. Good. Then allow me to tell you some rules. The giant said. And he continued, first of all, no weapons or treasures of any kind are allowed. If you have any on you right now, put them away. Yuan nodded and stored the invisible dragon cloak into his dragon spatial ring. 2. You are not allowed to use any offensive techniques. However, defensive techniques are allowed. The third rule is that you are not allowed to dodge. You will have to endure every blow with your body. The same goes for me. Final rule, the first one to give up or fall unconscious will lose. Now that you know the rules, do you still wish to continue? I will give you one last chance to walk away, human brat. Yuan smiled and said, it feels weird that you're addressing me in a way that makes it seem as though you're not human. I mean, I get it. Your ancestors transformed your blood through a godly technique, but it's not like you're no longer human. Unlike a demon, you still look human to me. The place turned silent after Yuan's little speech. Oh no. That idiot. Huang Shaoli cried inwardly after sensing the change in the atmosphere. Unbeknownst to Yuan, it was an unspoken rule within the giant's continent that you're not supposed to call giants humans. How dare you? How dare you call me a human? The giant on the stage suddenly roared with a red face. I take back what I just said. You're not allowed to quit anymore. We're going to fight to death now. He roared, causing the air to tremble. The giants watching the match began shouting like a group of warriors before a big battle, causing the ground and buildings there to shake violently. Yuan was a little surprised by the giants' reaction. They're offended because I called them humans? What a blunder. Now I have a target on my back, he sighed inwardly after realizing the situation. Are you ready to fight? The giant asked him sometime later. Yes, I am ready. He nodded. Then here I come. The giant wasted no time throwing his first punch, and a fist the size of a large boulder flew at Yuan's small figure in comparison. Although he was unable to dodge the attack, the giant didn't say anything about not being able to strike back, so he also threw his own punch, putting all of his strength behind it. The moment their fists connected with each other, a powerful ripple swept the scene, surprising everyone there. Though what shocked them even more was the fact that Yuan, a mere human, was not only able to survive the giant's attack but even stop it. However, it was not perfect. Yuan had been pushed back several steps while the giant remained unmoving like a mountain. Looks like I have underestimated the strength of giants. Yuan thought to himself after feeling a numbing sensation in not only his fist but the rest of his arm as well. Furthermore, he's already used all of his strength in that last exchange, yet he couldn't push back the giant even slightly. The chances of him winning this match in his current state was slim to none. Despite that, Yuan didn't give up, and he was even smiling. It's been a while since I have faced such a strong opponent, an opponent that I cannot defeat easily. This is great. He laughed inwardly. The giant was also quite surprised when Yuan managed to stop his fist. Even though his attack seemed ordinary and ineffective, the spot he struck felt like it had been stabbed with a needle and actually hurts like hell. Where did such a formidable human come from? He cried inwardly but acted completely tranquil outside. You. I don't think I have heard your name yet. I am known as Sorgi. The giant suddenly introduced himself as Sorgi. My name is Yuan. Good. Now let's continue our fight. Sorgi laughed as he threw his fist at Yuan for a second time. Ha! Free web and OVL. Just like their last confrontation, Yuan blocked Sorgi's first with his own, but he was forced several steps back again. Let's see how long you can keep this up. Sorgi roared as he threw the third strike without giving Yuan any time to rest, then a fourth, and a fifth. Huang Shaoli and the other giants watched with their mouths wide open, not daring to believe their eyes. Do you think he's cheating? One of the giants there suddenly threw out this thought. He's definitely cheating. There's no way a human like him could rival a giant in raw strength. He must be hiding a treasure somewhere in his body. When the giant started accusing Yuan of secretly using a treasure, the match stopped temporarily. You think I am cheating? Yuan looked at the crowd of giants with his eyebrows raised slightly. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Of course. Otherwise, how else can you hold your own against a giant? Not even body refiners are capable of such a feat. The giants responded. Is that so? Yuan mumbled. He turned to look at Sorgi and asked him, what about you? Do you think I am cheating? Sorgi frowned after hearing this question. Although he didn't want to accuse Yuan of cheating, his pride as a giant didn't think it was possible for a human to match him. I see, even though Sorgi hasn't said a word yet, Yuan already knew the answer by looking at the expression on his face. If you think I am cheating, then I don't mind letting you search my body. I will even hand over my clothes and spatial rings to my friend during the match. What do you think? He suggested. There's no need to search your body. Sorgi responded after a moment of silence. And he continued, but you can leave your clothes and spatial ring with your friend. If you can prove to everyone here that you're not cheating, I will compensate you for this misunderstanding. Very well. Yuan nodded. He proceeded to remove his clothes until he was wearing nothing but his underwear, revealing to everyone there his sweaty but refined body. Even Sorgi was surprised when he saw Yuan's body that looked like it had been carefully sculpted by the heavens itself. Shaoli, can you hold these for me for a bit? Yuan asked her, who was blushing from ear to ear after seeing his half-naked body. After handing Huang Shaoli his clothes and spatial rings, Yuan returned to the stage with only his underwear. I am ready, he said with a cold expression on his face. Sorgi swallowed nervously, and he could feel an uneasy feeling welling up inside his guts. The two of them continued to throw fists at each other shortly after. This is. He's gotten even stronger than before. How is this possible? Sorgi was shocked inwardly after sensing the immense force behind Yuan's first strike after the brief break. However, that was not the end of his shock, as Sorgi could feel Yuan's attacks continuously growing stronger with every strike. As time passed and the number of strikes they threw at each other increased, Yuan's eyes started turning golden, and his body began emanating an unfathomable aura that made it seem as though an unparalleled entity had descended from the heavens. Soon even, Yuan's body was enveloped by a golden aura that made him feel invincible, like he was an unrivaled god. When Sorgi and the spectators saw this, they all subconsciously swallowed nervously. What kind of technique is he using? I have a really bad feeling about this. Sorgi cried inwardly as he stared at Yuan's shimmering figure. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1020. Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 11 seconds p.m. Chapter 1020. 1020 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1020. Golden Mountain Body Refinement. I don't know what kind of trick you're using, but you won't be able to defeat me. Sorgi roared as he used his own body refining technique, increasing his prowess by many folds, and his body began pulsating with energy so powerful it became visible to one's eyes. However, Yuan remained calm, his gaze as tranquil as a still lake. Hiya! Sorgi threw his most powerful strike yet, causing the air to tremble. Ha! Yuan also threw his own fist, his aura skyrocketing right before it collided with Sorgi's fist. Boom! The entire city shook as a massive ripple swept the city, and one of them flew off the stage and into many buildings before stopping. The giants were shocked and speechless after seeing the results. Sorgi lost to a human. One of them exclaimed, his eyes filled with disbelief. Impossible. What happened just now? How can a mere human have such prowess with such a tiny body? This doesn't make any sense. After sending Sorgi flying off the stage, Yuan closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and he could feel the invincible feeling in his body quickly dissipating. He looked at his hands with a wondering gaze. Just on Earth was that strength? I experienced it during my fight with Li Jinxi before. If only I can control this power. He sighed inwardly. Sometime later, Sorgi returned to the stage with a blooded arm. Are you okay? Yuan asked him, feeling a little bad about injuring him to such an extent. My muscles are torn, and my entire arm is broken, but I will be fine after some medicine. Sorgi said with a calm smile on his face. Giants are tough, they'll give you that. Yuan smiled back. Yuan, right? Here is your reward. Sorgi handed him a scroll with his other hand. Thank you. After accepting the scroll, Yuan immediately opened it and memorized the content. Relax, I wouldn't scam you with a fake technique before so many people. Sorgi misunderstood his actions. By the way, there will be a major tournament next month that is held by the royal family. It's going to be something like our match just now, and I think you'll do great in it. Perhaps you might even win the grand prize, which is a mythic rank body refining technique. Sorgi suddenly said. What? A mythic rank body refining technique? Yuan's eyes widened with surprise. However, as much as he wanted to participate in the tournament, he will have to leave the Giants' continent with the Huang family in 14 days. I would love to participate, but unfortunately, my time here is limited, so I won't be able to participate. That's a pity. I wanted to see how you would fare against the best warriors in the Giants' continent. Sorgi shook his head. Sometime later, Yuan retrieved his clothes and spatial rings from Huang Shaoli, who was staring at him with admiration. Yuan. You totally overwhelmed that giant. I still can't believe it. How do you train your body? It's nothing fancy. I just temper my body with medicine. He calmly said. Those must have been some expensive treasure since you were able to defeat a giant using your raw strength. No, my strength is actually weaker than Sorgi. Something else allowed me to defeat him. He shook his head. Huh? What? I don't know. I am also trying to figure it out. Let's continue our tour for a little more before we head back to the hotel. Huang Shaoli suggested. Sure. Meanwhile, somewhere in the Giants' continent, a giant that had been sitting on a throne as large as a mountain slowly opened his eyes, his gaze filled with dominance. That aura just now, the giant slowly stood up and turned to face the direction of the southern stronghold. Ah. Have you finally returned, my old friend? I have been waiting for this day ever since I perfected the great mammoth body refinement. I will not lose this time. This giant suddenly bent his knees in a way that looked like he was prepared to jump, and the next moment, he jumped, soaring towards the southern stronghold faster than a rocket. About an hour after Yuan fought with Sorgi, he returned to the hotel with Huang Shaoli, father. Mother. You will not believe what happened when we were outside. Yuan fought with a giant and won. Huang Shaoli bragged about his match with Sorgi the moment she returned home. What? He fought a giant? What happened? Are you guys okay? Huang Chen misunderstood the situation and panicked. After all, if a human picked a fight with a giant while they were in this place, nobody would be able to save them if the giants decided to destroy them. It's fine, father. It wasn't a fight. It was a legit match. Yuan even won a divine rank technique from it. Huang Shaoli cleared up the misunderstanding. Seriously? Yuan, you're truly full of surprises. It's nothing much, he said with a smile. Anyways, I am going to study this new technique that I acquired. If you need me, don't hesitate to interrupt me. He said to them before going into another room. Sometime later. You have learned Golden Mountain Body Refinement, rank, Divine, Mastery Level, 1, Description, strengthens your body to become even tougher than that of a mountain made of pure gold. After learning the technique, Yuan stood up and tried it. Golden Mountain Body Refinement. After activating the technique, Yuan could see a thin layer of golden light protecting his body, and he could also feel his body getting stronger. In order to train body refinement techniques, I will need people to hit me while I am using the technique. He went to grab Huang Shaoli a moment later. What happened to the technique? She asked him. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. I have already learned it, he calmly said. Why you what? There's no way you learned a divine rank technique in less than an hour. She exclaimed. Yuan didn't say anything and decided to prove it by showing her the technique. You actually managed to learn it in under an hour. Now that I think about it. You're also a quick learner when it comes to array symbols, she muttered in a dazed voice after seeing the golden glow protecting his body. I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Yuan suddenly said to her. Sure. Huang Shaoli did not hesitate and prepared to throw her fist at him. However, he quickly stopped her and said, Hold it. Why are you using your hand? Use a weapon instead. You're going to break your hand like that. What? Did I hear right? You want me to strike you with a weapon? She looked at him with wide eyes. Don't worry, I will be fine. Even if I am not fine, I won't blame you for it. He said with a smile. That doesn't make me feel any better, but whatever. I trust you. Huang Shaoli proceeded to retrieve a heaven-grade sword and slashed it at Yuan with all of her cultivation behind it. Ding! The sword bounced off Yuan's body the moment it touched the golden layer. This isn't too bad. I don't have my invisible dragon cloak on right now, so I was expecting to bleed a little. Yuan said after seeing the results. You were expecting to bleed? Huang Shaoli's jaw dropped a little after hearing such words. Looks like I will need something stronger if I want to cultivate this technique properly. I should pick a fight with another giant and use them to train this technique. Yuan said with a weird smile on his face. I won't say anything as long as it's a match and you're not actually picking a fight, Huang Shaoli said. Anyways, let's, boom. The entire building suddenly shook violently. An earthquake? Huang Shaoli looked around with a raised eyebrow. No, this isn't caused by an earthquake. It's too unnatural. Yuan said. Everyone in the hotel proceeded to look outside the window, and to their absolute shock, a giant that size of an actual mountain had suddenly appeared outside the city. Holy shit, Yuan muttered in a dumbfounded voice when he saw the size of this giant. If he stood before this giant, he would figuratively and literally be like an ant. What are they doing? Huang Shaoli pointed at the giants in the street, as they had all suddenly dropped to their knees and kowtowed towards the giant outside the city. Her question would be answered the following moment when every giant in the city could be heard shouting, We pay respects to His Majesty, Giant Emperor Kulis. The entire city shook for a second time when all of the giants there paid their respects to Giant Emperor Kulis, who is the current ruler of the Giants continent. However, Giant Emperor Kulis ignored the giants and swept the city with his gaze. Every single individual that entered his gaze trembled with awe. A few moments of silence later, Giant Emperor Kulis spoke in a deafening voice, How long do you plan on hiding? I know you're here. Tianyang, get your ass out here and fight me. Yuan's eyes widened with shock when he heard the name Tianyang come out of the Giant Emperor's mouth. This is Tianyang's memories? I thought this was the god of war's memories. And what relationship does he have with the Giant Emperor? The Giant Emperor looks pissed. He cried inwardly, not daring to respond to the Giant Emperor's call, as that would be akin to suicide with his current strength. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1021. Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 9 seconds p.m. Chapter 1021. 1021 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1021. Giant Emperor Kulis, Tianyang. Get your ass out here. I won't move a single inch until you come out and fight me like a man. Or have you become a coward since our last duel? Giant Emperor Kulis roared when Yuan didn't respond to his callings. The giants in the city were baffled by the Giant Emperor Kulis' words. In their eyes, Giant Emperor Kulis was the strongest giant in their race. He was a proud warrior with a godlike physique that has never lost a fight before. While many giants would challenge him, they don't recall the last time he personally challenged another person to a fight. And judging by his recent words, it seemed that Giant Emperor Kulis was desperate to fight this individual known as Tianyang. However, nobody there knew of a giant by that name. Do you know of a Tianyang? No, I don't. The giants in the city mumbled to each other while Giant Emperor Kulis stood before their city, his gaze sweeping through it. Just who is this Tianyang, and why does the Giant Emperor want to fight him? Huang Shaoli mumbled in a dazed voice as she stared at the massive giant standing outside the city. Who knows, Yuan shrugged. Despite being very confident in his own strength, Yuan knew that he was not an opponent for Giant Emperor Kulis, who appeared to be above Spirit Sovereign. Therefore, he decided to ignore Giant Emperor Kulis' entire existence by pretending to not see him. I'm going to cultivate, Yuan said as he returned to his room. However, he would soon realize that was an impossible feat with the Giant Emperor shouting his name every few minutes. Tianyang. You dare ignore me? Get your ass out here. Tianyang. I have all day. I will stand here until you leave. Giant Emperor Kulis made it impossible for the residents of the city to have a peaceful mind and impossible to cultivate. However, none of the giants complained. They wouldn't dare to complain even if Giant Emperor Kulis decided to erase their city from the continent. In the Giants' continent, Giant Emperor Kulis was nature and the law. Whatever he says goes. However, while the giants could not do anything about Giant Emperor Kulis, they could do something about this Tianyang. This Tianyang is ignoring His Majesty's summoning and making His Majesty wait. The audacity. Yeah. Let's find this bastard for His Majesty. Drag out this Tianyang from whatever rat hole he's hiding in. Eventually, all of the giants in the city began looking for this Tianyang. I think this Tianyang is a human. Yeah. No giant would ever disobey His Majesty so openly. Gather all of the humans in this city. We must find this Tianyang at all cost. The giants in the city began gathering all of the humans they could find outside the city, where Giant Emperor Kulis was waiting. Yuan. The hotel staff are telling us that we need to gather with the other humans outside the city. Huang Shaoli called for him outside his room. Seriously? Yuan rubbed his eyes in a stressful manner after hearing her words. Is it impossible to avoid the Giant Emperor? Do I really have to fight him? He wondered as he opened the door and went outside. It's all right, you guys can stay here, Yuan said to the Huang family after leaving his room. Huh? Did you not hear me? They want every human in the city to gather outside the city. They could kill us if we refuse. This is all because of Tianyang, who's been ignoring the Giant Emperor. Huang Shaoli gritted her teeth in frustration. I'm telling you that it's fine. Nothing will happen. Because I am Tianyang. Yuan revealed this fact to them. Why you're Tianyang? They all stared at him with shocked faces. Well, I am Yuan, but I am also Tianyang. It's a nickname, he said with a bittersweet smile. Isn't this your first time to the Giants' continent? Why would you know the Giant Emperor if that was the case? And why are you avoiding him? Huang Chen frowned, becoming suspicious of Yuan's identity. This is really my first time coming to the Giants' continent. As for the Giant Emperor, I met him outside the Giants' continent. And the reason I am avoiding him is because I don't want to fight him. Yuan shrugged, making up all sorts of excuses. Pada OVL anyways, since they're going through this much trouble to bring me out, I will go have a chat with the Giant Emperor. Yuan. Whatever you do, do not offend the Giant Emperor. He is literally heaven to the giants. You don't want to offend someone like him, especially not in his territory. Huang Shaoli warned him. I want. Yuan said before flying out of the window and towards the giant outside the city. When Giant Emperor Kulis saw Yuan flying towards him, he started laughing out loud. There you are, Tian Yang. Did you not hear me calling for you? Why were you hiding from me? Did you not want to fight me? The giants in the city stopped their movements after hearing Giant Emperor Kulis' words, and they all silently spectated the situation. I'm here on private business, so of course I don't want to fight you. I don't want to attract too much attention, after all. Yuan said. Ha ha ha. That's a load of bullshit. If you didn't want to fight me, why would you use that technique? You're clearly provoking me. Technique? What technique? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Still acting dumb? Or do you believe that I had forgotten about it? Too bad for you, I have never forgotten about that golden aura of yours since our last fight. I came here the moment I sensed it. Giant Emperor Kulis said. Yuan's eyes widened with surprise after hearing the true purpose of Giant Emperor Kulis' visit. He came here because he sensed my golden aura. Does he know something about it? If he does, I must ask him. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. This is the first time that someone besides Tian Yang knew something about his golden aura, and this could be his opportunity to learn something about it. Since you seem to know so much about the golden aura, why don't you tell me everything you know about it? If you do, I will fight you. Giant Emperor Kulis did not immediately respond to him. After a moment of silence, he spoke. I didn't notice it at first due to my excitement, but what happened to your cultivation base? Why are you so pitifully weak? I wouldn't enjoy beating you in your current state. Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking. I was injured not long ago, and that affected my cultivation. Giant Emperor Kulis narrowed his eyes at Yuan. Forget it then. I don't want to fight you in your current state. Come back when you're stronger. And without saying anything else, Giant Emperor Kulis turned around and walked away, leaving Yuan utterly speechless. This fucker. How can he leave things like this? He came here so suddenly and even caused such a commotion. Is the stairway to heaven trying to tease me? However, Giant Emperor Kulis stopped after taking a few steps. He turned around and looked at Yuan. My family is hosting a tournament next month. If you win it, I will tell you everything I know about the golden aura. See you there. After saying such words, Giant Emperor Kulis leaped into the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The tournament? Unless it's going to happen in the next trial, I will most likely have to wait until I ascend to the fourth heaven. He sighed inwardly. Yuan returned to the Huang family shortly after. Are you okay? What happened? Why did the Giant Emperor leave so suddenly? It's nothing much. He wants me to participate in the tournament next month, the one Sorgi talked about. However, that isn't possible since I will be leaving this place with your family before it can happen. Huang Shaoli immediately began pondering. After a moment of silence, she turned to look at her father and spoke. Father, I have a request. I think I have an idea about what you're going to ask me, but ask away anyway. Let's stay in the Giants' continent for a little longer. We can leave after the tournament. I really want to see Yuan fighting against the other giants, especially after what I witnessed today. It's going to be amazing. Huang Chen sighed after hearing his daughter's request. He turned to look at Yuan and asked him a moment later, what do you think? Do you want to participate in this tournament? Since the Giant Emperor is expecting your presence there, I cannot be the reason why you miss it. Yuan nodded. I would like to participate in the tournament. Then it's settled. Well, stay here for a couple more weeks. Huang Chen declared. Thank you, Senior Huang. Yuan said to him. There's no need to thank me. You saved my family's lives more than once, after all. And I also want to see how you will fare against the strongest giants in the continent. However, since the location of the tournament is a little far away, we will need to start making our way there right now if we want to make it there in time for the tournament. As for my business, it can wait until we reach the capital. I will have a higher chance of acquiring more valuable treasures over there than here. Huang Chen said. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1022. Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 7 seconds p.m. Chapter 1022. 1022 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1022. Tournament of Strength. What about the ship? It will leave with or without us in 14 days, right? Yuan asked. Yes, but it will return in 7 days for another 14 days. If we miss that, we can wait for the next one. It's really not that big of a deal. Most people that come to this continent tend to stay here for over a month, too. Huang Chen said. All right. The Huang family quickly packed their stuff and checked out of the hotel. When they left the hotel, everyone in the street would stop whatever they were doing to stare at Yuan. However, nobody there dared to approach him. Is that him? The human that His Majesty had challenged? Yes, that's him. Where do you think he's going? According to the rumors, His Majesty is expecting to see him at the tournament next month. What? A human participating in the Tournament of Strength? That's ridiculous. Who knows? A human recognized by His Majesty isn't someone we should look down upon. Sometime later, Yuan's group stopped by a large building. Since we're going to be traveling a long distance, we'll need to rent a carriage and hire a driver. Huang Chen said. I can pay for it since I'm the reason we're making the journey. Yuan said. It's fine. I got it. Huang Chen smiled at him. Half an hour later, Huang Chen returned to them and said, they're preparing the carriage and our driver. They should be ready in an hour. Until then, let's go get something to eat. Sure. They walked around until they could find a restaurant that was operated by a human, as the restaurants for giants were simply too big for them. Huang Shaoli remembered Yuan's monstrous eating habits and ordered a full table of food just for him. As they began eating, giants would gather outside the restaurant and peek inside, all of them seemingly there to look at Yuan. That's Tianyang? What's so special about him? I don't know. Hey. I recognize him. He fought with Sorgi earlier today and won. What? Sorgi? Seriously? He's one of the strongest warriors in this city. So what if he beat Sorgi? Compared to the warriors that will be attending the Tournament of Strength, Sorgi is no different than an ant. He didn't just beat Sorgi. He overwhelmed Sorgi, even breaking his arm. Although it was even at first, he suddenly used a mysterious power that still sends shivers down my spine when I recall it. Yuan ignored the giants watching them from outside like they were part of some kind of exhibit. However, the Huang family was quite nervous from all of the staring. After eating, Yuan and the Huang family made their way to the gathering point, where a large carriage made for giants was already prepared for them. That's going to be dragging the carriage? Yuan was expecting horses, but he got something entirely different. Yes, that's a green earth dragon. They may have the word dragon in their name, but they're really just large lizards. Horses aren't used here because they're too weak for giants. Huang Shaoli explained. Are you guys ready? The driver, a 7-meter-tall male giant, asked them. Yes, we're ready. Huang Chen nodded. The giant nodded back and commanded the green earth dragon to move, dragging the carriage away from the southern stronghold and towards colossal Mammoth City. How much do you guys know about the tournament? Yuan asked the Huang family as they moved. Not much, except that it's the biggest event in the entire continent that only occurs every 100 years. Huang Chen said. I believe it's called the Tournament of Strength. The strongest warriors from around the world will participate in it. The winners will not only receive a powerful technique but also the title of Colossal, something that can only be held by the strongest person in the continent. If you win this tournament, you can expect unimaginable wealth and fame within the giant's continent. Rumors even say that you'll be able to join the royal family by marrying one of their princesses. Huang Shaoli added. The royal family. That would be the giant emperor's family, right? Yuan asked for confirmation. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. That's right. Giant Emperor Kulis is not only the strongest entity in this world but also the most influential. His words are the law and his actions are akin to nature. Nobody dares to oppose him. Do you think you'll be able to win the tournament? She asked a moment later. Yuan immediately shook his head with a bittersweet smile. In my current state? I don't think so. Really? Even though the giant emperor wanted you to participate? I have no idea what that guy has in his mind. He shrugged. Sometime later, the driver suddenly shouted, "We have incoming magical beasts." They stopped talking and looked in front of them, where a single beast that stood on two legs could be seen blocking the road. That's a wingless dragon. And it's emitting the strength of a spirit emperor. Qin Kai exclaimed. If there's only one of them, I can handle it. Yuan said as he leaped from the carriage and into the sky, where he quickly charged up a heaven-splitting sword strike. Whoosh! The wingless dragon was consumed by the heaven-splitting sword strike, disappearing alongside the road, where a large crater now existed. The giant stopped the carriage for a moment to look at Yuan with wide eyes, seemingly not daring to believe his eyes. Once Yuan returned to the carriage, the giant continued to drive the carriage. Wow! That was amazing! Huang Shaoli exclaimed. If only you could use spiritual attacks at the tournament, you would definitely win. If only, he smiled. If I want to win the tournament, I will need to temper my body even more. If only I could use the golden aura at will. Since I cannot do that, I will need to think of another way to increase my chances of winning. After pondering for some time, Yuan recalled the nameless technique being trained by Li Jinsi. Perhaps I can use that temporarily. He thought inwardly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1023. Published at 8th of June 2022 5:18 and 8 seconds p.m. Chapter 1023. 1023 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1023. Unbearable pain. Yuan closed his eyes and began reciting the nameless technique inside his head. About an hour later, the Huang family could see a red aura emanating from Yuan's body, and he gave off the feeling of a wild beast who thirsted for blood. Wei Yuan? Are you okay? Huang Shaoli asked him in a nervous voice, as the pressure coming from him was quite overwhelming. He opened his eyes and nodded with a calm expression. Don't worry, I am fine. It's just a new technique that I recently learned. Meanwhile, in the spectators' room, Li Jinsi stared at Yuan and his red aura with wide eyes. That red aura looks very familiar, Chu Liuxiang mumbled out loud when she saw it. It's my technique. Li Jinsi said. Huh? You taught it to him? When? When he started training me. If he understood my technique, then he would be able to train me better. I didn't think he would want to learn something like that because he said that it wasn't created for humans, not that I am complaining. Since I gave him the technique, I don't mind if he uses it as well. A technique not created for humans? Can you use it for me? I would like to see it. Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked. Sure. Li Jinsi nodded. She proceeded to activate her nameless technique, showing off her red aura that looked just like the one surrounding Yuan at this moment. I see. The young master is right. This technique does give off a beastly vibe, and it's a fairly strong one. Is it a divine rank technique? Li Jinsi nodded. My family always thought it was only a heaven rank technique for some reason. It wasn't until she learned the technique and that she found out the technique was actually a divine rank technique and not a mere heaven rank technique. Do you know what kind of beast this technique was created for? Li Jinxi asked. Feng Yuxiang narrowed her eyes and pondered for a moment before speaking. I have a feeling that I have encountered that kind of aura before, but I cannot remember when or where. Sorry. It's fine. Li Jinxi shook her head. Do you know the origin of the technique? Feng Yuxiang then asked. I do not. It's been with my family since ancient times. Your surname is Li, right? If I recall correctly, there is a well-known family with that surname in the third heaven, and they're all beast tamers that utilize the power of beasts. Maybe they know something about it. I guess we'll find out when we get there. Half an hour later, Yuan's carriage encountered another magical beast. This time, he did not use heavenly splitting sword strike. Instead, he used the nameless technique and confronted the magical beast head-on with the Empyrean Overlord. Shah! The Empyrean Overlord sliced through the magical beast as though it was tofu, and Yuan noticed his aura growing a little stronger when he killed the magic beast. Nameless technique, rank, divine, description, increases your overall strength and removes the limit on your body to a certain extent. The nameless technique was a simple yet profound technique that is more than it appears. Yuan looked at the red aura that covered his body after killing the magical beast, feeling an overwhelming sense of strength. However, right as he was getting comfortable with the nameless technique, Yuan suddenly felt an intense sensation of pain coming from his heart, almost like he was having a heart attack. He immediately knelt on the ground and clenched his chest. Arg! He screamed out loud. The pain coming from his heart was many times stronger than his worst body tempering session, and it felt like his heart was being torn apart. Yuan? Are you okay? The Huang family was shocked when they saw this. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. However, Yuan did not hear them speaking at all, as a deafening voice was resounding inside his head at this moment. How dare you use another aura when you already have heaven's supremacy? This deep voice sounded very familiar to Yuan, but he does not recall where he had heard it, not that he was in the condition to ponder. The Huang family then watched as a golden aura began emanating from Yuan's body, quickly consuming the red aura. Eventually, the red aura was completely replaced with the golden aura. The pain stopped shortly after, and Yuan was finally able to take a deep breath. What the hell happened just now? What was that voice? He cried inwardly, his body soaked in cold sweat as the painful sensation still lingered in his body. Yuan. Huang Shaoli jumped off the carriage and rushed over to see his condition. Your face is so pale. What happened to you? She was shocked when she saw his ghastly complexion. I think I experienced some kind of backlash. I should be fine after some rest, he said. Huang Shaoli supported Yuan with her shoulder until they returned to the carriage. Here, eat this spirit-replenishing pill. It should help you. Huang Chen handed him a pill that restored his spiritual energy. Even though he barely used his spiritual energy, Yuan still consumed the pill, and he could feel a burst of refreshing energy spreading throughout his entire body. While he rested, Yuan tried to recall where he had heard that voice before. That's right. I remember now. I heard that voice during one of my dreams. He finally recalled. However, that only made the situation even more puzzling. Why did I hear that voice just now? It mentioned heaven's supremacy. Is that the name of that mysterious aura? He wondered inwardly as the carriage continued moving. The voice sounded angry when I used the nameless technique. Almost like it has its own consciousness, but how is that possible? Yuan pondered and pondered, but he was unable to understand with this tiny amount of information. Should I use the nameless technique again to see if it will happen again? He wondered inwardly, yet he was hesitant to do so, mostly because he didn't want to experience that unbearable pain again. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1024. Published at 8th of June 2022 5:18 and 6 seconds p.m. Chapter 1024. 1024 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1024. Soul Strength. No, I shouldn't use the nameless technique again, at least not now. Well, need to settle down somewhere before I try again. Yuan thought to himself. After all, if he tried using the nameless technique and loses consciousness due to the backlash, he wouldn't be able to protect the Huang family and fail the stairway to heaven. Fortunately for Yuan, his headache vanished half an hour later, and his pale complexion was also restored back to normal. You shouldn't use that technique again. I think there might be something wrong with it. Huang Shaoli warned him. All right, he nodded with a bitter smile. As they continued their journey to Colossal Mammoth City, Yuan would protect the carriage from all sorts of magical beasts, with most of them having the strength of a spirit emperor. These trials are getting too ridiculous too quickly. I am only trying to ascend to the third heaven and I am already forced to fight spirit emperors. At this rate, I will have to fight immortals if I wish to ascend to the fourth heaven. Yuan sighed inwardly. How are you feeling, Yuan? I'm sorry you have to endure all of this all by yourself. I would love to help, but I am simply powerless in this place. Huang Shaoli felt a little guilty when she saw how Yuan was dealing with all of their threats all by himself. Don't worry about me. I am the reason we're making this unnecessary trip in the first place, so it's only reasonable for me to bear the responsibility and protect all of you. By the way, how far are we from our destination? He turned to ask the driver. At the pace we're moving, we should arrive in 20 days. 20 days, huh? Yuan didn't say anything else and closed his eyes to cultivate. For the next 4 days, Yuan would do nothing but protect their carriage from magical beasts. At the end of the 4th day, the driver said to them, "There's a city up ahead. If you wish to take any breaks, now would be the time. We won't see the next city for another week after this one. I would like to take a bath and eat some food." Huang Shaoli immediately said. Do you mind if we stop here for a bit, Yuan? Huang Chen asked him. You don't need to ask me, even if you want to stay here for a night or two. Yuan said. All right, then we'll stop here for a couple of hours before we continue our journey. Huang Chen nodded. Once they arrived at the city, the driver said to them, I will wait for you here. Take as long as you need. Are you sure? You can take a break as well. Huang Shaoli said to him. Thank you for your consideration, but I take my job very seriously. I won't leave this carriage until I bring all of you to Colossal Mammoth City. I understand. Sometime later, the Huang family rented a hotel room for 1 day, allowing everyone to enjoy a hot bath. Ah! That felt great. Huang Shaoli exclaimed in a satisfied voice after coming out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her body, her hair still dripping wet. Huang Chen frowned when he saw her appearance, and he said, You're not at home. Mind your appearance. Oh, right. Huang Shaoli quickly went back into the bathroom to dry her hair and wear clothes. After leaving the hotel, they went to a nearby restaurant and ate until all of their stomachs were bloated. They returned to the driver waiting outside the city afterward, continuing their journey for another 7 days. The magical beasts they encountered during these 7 days were stronger than the previous encounters. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The magical beasts are getting stronger as we get closer to the Colossal Mammoth City, but my strength isn't increasing. Unless I consume a monster core or a demon core, I won't be able to suddenly increase my strength to pass the trial like last time. On their 5th day to their second checkpoint, the carriage came to a complete halt when a magical beast that stood on 2 legs with a pair of closed wings behind its back blocked their path. That's a mountain dragon. The driver appeared to be terrified of this magical beast. Just as the name sounds, this magical beast was like a small mountain that blocked their path. I will need to use the God of War's astral arts if I want to deal with this beast. Yuan sighed inwardly after sensing the overwhelming aura coming from the magical beast. I will be right back. Yuan said to the Huang family as he flew into the air and used God of War's astral arts. What in coolest name is that? The giant cried out loud when he saw the massive figure that appeared out of the blue in the sky. Then he watched as the golden armored figure flattened the mountain dragon with a single strike, causing the entire world to tremble as well. It wasn't just the driver. Even the green earth dragon pulling their carriage was shocked by what it had just witnessed. It has seen many things throughout its life as a carriage puller, but it has never met a human with such prowess before. Yuan returned to the carriage shortly after killing the mountain dragon with a pale complexion. Are you sure you're not pushing yourself? At this rate, you won't have enough strength left for the tournament. Huang Shaoli sighed as she positioned Yuan's head to rest on her soft legs. That technique uses my soul strength instead of my spiritual energy, so I will be fine as long as I get enough rest, he said. Soul strength, huh? Huang Shaoli suddenly put on a pondering face. She turned to look at Huang Chen and asked, Father, don't you know any arrays that could help replenish his soul strength? Actually, I do. He nodded. Really? Yuan was pleasantly surprised to hear this. Yes. Give me a minute. Huang Chen nodded as he began creating array symbols that Yuan didn't recognize. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1025. Published at 10th of June 2022 1:09 and 11 seconds p.m. Chapter 1025. 1025 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1025. Soul Nourishment Array. After spending a few minutes creating array symbols, Huang Chen pointed his hands at Yuan and gestured for the symbols to activate. Soul Nourishment Array. The array symbol surrounded Yuan and illuminated a beautiful golden light. Although the difference wasn't anything major, Yuan's soul strength was definitely recovering noticeably faster. How do you feel, Yuan? Huang Shaoli asked him. This array is really useful. I've been thinking about getting a soul cultivation technique, but this could work as well, at least temporary. Do you mind teaching me this array? I'll be able to use my trump card much more often if I have this array. Of course, it's okay to refuse. I am aware that it's a valuable array since anything that can restore soul strength is valuable. He asked Huang Chen. I don't mind teaching you the soul nourishment array, but will you even be able to use it? It's a level 4 array combination that's even more difficult than some level 5 array combinations. Huang Chen said. Level 4 array combination. I only know up to level 3 array symbols, Yuan sighed. You can always learn level 4 array symbols. I mean, you're a quick learner and a genius array master. Here, you can have this. Huang Shaoli handed him a thin book that read 2000 master array symbols. Thank you. Yuan accepted the book and immediately started flipping through the pages to memorize the content. Since there were only 2000 array symbols, it didn't take long for him to memorize all of them. Erase the soul nourishment array. Huang Chen handed him the array combination next. Thank you. Yuan also memorized the array combination right after acquiring it. Since he couldn't take these items outside the stairway to heaven, he needed to memorize them before the trial ended. While Huang Chen maintained the soul nourishment array, Yuan would study the level 4 array symbols. They continued this until they finally arrived at their second checkpoint. Do you wish to rest here like before? The driver asked them. Yes, please. All right. Once the carriage was parked, Yuan and the Huang family entered the city to take another break. Shortly after Yuan and the others entered the city, a tall figure wearing a cloak approached their carriage, where the driver was patiently waiting for their return. Hey, I have some questions for you. The cloaked figure asked the driver. A woman? The driver raised his eyebrows after hearing her clear voice, and judging by the size of this figure, she appeared to be human. What kind of questions? The driver asked. The woman proceeded to ask him several questions. Sorry, but I cannot answer these questions. The driver politely refused this mysterious woman after hearing her questions. The woman sighed. I didn't want to do this, but the driver immediately prepared to retaliate after hearing this woman's ominous words. Calm down. I'm not here to fight, she said after seeing the driver getting defensive and all. I'm going to show you my face. Don't shout too loudly. The woman said as she removed her hood just enough to reveal her facial appearance to the driver. Wire? The driver's eyes widened with shock upon realizing the identity of this woman. Shoo. The woman quickly shushed him with a finger between her lips. Now tell me what I want to know, she then said. All right, the driver couldn't refuse her after recognizing her identity. After spending several hours inside the city, Yuan and the Huang family returned to the carriage, but to their surprise, there was someone they didn't recognize with the driver, mostly because they were wearing a cloak that hid their face and identity. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Who are you? Huang Chen asked this cloaked figure. Hello, my name is Xia Mei. I have been looking for you, Tian Yang. The woman suddenly introduced herself. Yuan frowned slightly and said, I'm Yuan. Then why did you answer the giant emperor, who was calling for Tian Yang? She asked with a smile. What do you want from me? He asked. Nothing, really. I'm just interested in you, who has managed to receive the giant emperor's attention. As far as I am aware, the giant emperor isn't interested in weaklings. In fact, he wouldn't even acknowledge one's existence until they prove their strength. However, you have not only managed to attract his attention but even make him personally visit you. That's the first time I've seen him do something like that. You're going to Colossal Mammoth City for the Tournament of Strength, right? Do you mind if I tagged along? I promise that I won't be a bother. In fact, it'll even help out with protecting the carriage. I may not look like it, but I'm pretty strong. Xia Mei made a gesture that one would normally make to show off their biceps, but the cloak hid everything. Yuan narrowed his eyes at this mysterious woman. I cannot sense her cultivation base, but she's definitely not immortal, so she must be above Spirit Emperor. It would be a great help if someone like her joins our journey. He thought to himself. Furthermore, it was not as though he had the power to stop this woman from following them if she really wanted to. Do you mind if she joined us? Yuan turned to look at the Huang family. If you're okay with it, I won't say anything. Huang Chen said. Yuan turned to look at the driver, who immediately nodded his head. The driver is acting weird. Does he know this woman? Yuan thought to himself after noticing the nervousness within the driver's gaze. All right, you can follow us. Yuan said to Xia Mei a moment later. Thank you, Tian Yang. Call me Yuan. That is my name. Yuan corrected her. Okay, Yuan. Nice to meet you. They returned to the road sometime later, but now with a new addition. This mysterious woman named Xia Mei, whose motives were as mysterious as her identity. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1026. Published at 10th of June 2022 1:09 and 10 seconds p.m. Chapter 1026. 1026 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1026. Mysterious woman. After leaving the city, the driver said to them, there won't be any more stops until we reach Colossal Mammoth City now. All right. Yuan said as he pulled out the level 4 array symbols manual and started studying it. Xia Mei, who has been staring at him since they got on the carriage, suddenly asked, what are you doing? I'm learning array symbols. I will need all of the concentration I can get before we're attacked by magical beasts, so if you don't mind, don't bother me until I am done. You promised that you wouldn't be a bother, right? That's not fun. Let's talk a little before you focus on that book. Xia Mei said. Hey. Stop bothering him or I will kick you out of here. Huang Shaoli interrupted with a slight frown on her face. The driver in the front snapped his head and looked at Huang Shaoli with wide eyes. Oh my God. She just threatened her. He cried inwardly. Xia Mei turned to look at Huang Shaoli and smiled underneath her cloak. You'll kick me out? How are you going to do that? A mere spirit grandmaster, I can crush you with a single pinky. Xia Mei showed Huang Shaoli her pinky and even wiggled it around in a provoking manner. Yuan suddenly sighed and looked away from his book to look at Xia Mei. Did you come here just to pick a fight? If that's the case, let's get this over with. Although he wasn't confident in beating her, he had a chance if he could catch her off guard with the God of War's astral arts. Relax, I don't want to fight you, at least not right now. Yuan narrowed his eyes at her words that implied that she wanted to fight him at a later date. The Tournament of Strength. I will be participating in it as well. As much as I want to fight you now, I will wait until we both enter the stage, Xia Mei said. You're also participating in the Tournament of Strength? I understand Yuan's reason for joining, but you as well? Aren't you a human? Huang Shaoli was surprised to hear that a female human wanted to join the Tournament of Strength. So what if I am human? There are no rules that prohibit humans from participating in the Tournament of Strength. In fact, many humans participate in every tournament. Though no human has ever won the tournament before. A female body refiner, huh? How rare, Huang Chen mumbled. Anyways, I just want to talk a little. I will stop bothering you afterward. Please. Xia Mei said a moment later, even clasping her palms together in a pleading gesture. Fine. What do you want to talk about? Yuan agreed to her proposal. How did you meet the giant emperor? That's a secret between us. Yuan made up an excuse since he didn't know. Fair enough. Then why does the giant emperor want to fight you? I don't know. Go ask him. He's the one who challenged me. He shrugged. I can't argue that. All right then, why did you come to the Giant's continent if not to participate in the Tournament of Strength? Yuan pointed at the Huang family and said, I am here as their bodyguard, and they're here to exchange their treasures. Seriously? That's why you're here? Xia Mei mumbled in a dazed voice, seemingly in disbelief. After asking Yuan several more questions, Xia Mei finally stopped bothering him. However, it didn't take long before he was distracted again. The moment he sensed a magical beast nearby, Yuan dropped the book in his hands and retrieved the Empyrean Overlord. His movements were incredibly fluid and without any hesitation, almost as though he's done this 1,000 times before. Vanishing Ghost's Soundless Blade. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yuan's arms flickered and disappeared for a split second, and in a speed that nobody there but Xia Mei could see, he sliced the magical beast over 12 times, separating its body into many pieces. Not bad. Xia Mei praised him after he returned to the carriage. Thanks. Yuan casually said as he picked up his book and began reading again. An hour later, Yuan sensed another magical beast approaching their location. I got this one. Xia Mei suddenly said, and she left the carriage before Yuan could even stand up. Yuan and the others watched as Xia Mei flew at the magical beast before giving it a single punch. Although the punch looked ordinary, there was actually an immense force behind it, and when the fist connected with the magical beast, it blew a massive hole in the magical beast body. What? Huang Shaoli's eyes widened with shock after seeing how little effort Xia Mei exerted to defeat the Spirit Emperor magical beast. After killing the magical beast with a single punch, Xia Mei returned to the carriage. What do you think? Do you think you'll be able to survive my fist? By the way, that wasn't even half of my full power. Xia Mei said. Although he couldn't see it, he was sure that there was a smug smile on her face right now just from her voice alone. Aren't you ashamed to be asking a mere spirit lord such a question when you're above Spirit Emperor? Yuan asked her. Can a mere spirit lord kill a Spirit Emperor magical beast with such ease? She responded with a question. I can tell that you're not using all of your power. I think I understand why the giant emperor took interest in you, but you're nowhere near the level to fight him, so I'm a little puzzled why he would challenge you." Xia Mei suddenly looked around in a suspicious manner. A few moments later, she spoke, "Now that we're pretty far away from the city, it should be fine if I show my face." And without any warning, she removed the cloak that had been hiding her appearance this entire time. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1027. Published at 13th of June 2022, 6:57 and 20 p.m. Chapter 1027. 1027. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1027. Colossal Tower. Yuan's eyes widened with surprise after Xia Mei removed her cloak, but it was an unexpected one. Who? He raised his eyebrows after seeing Xia Mei's appearance without recognizing her. Xia Mei was an incredibly beautiful woman with blonde hair and green eyes. She had a slim hourglass figure, and her breasts were quite ample. Her facial features were sharp and symmetrical, and her face gave off the aura of a battle-hardened warrior who has survived many battlefields. Yuan thought that the trend of meeting people with similar faces that he already knew like Meishio in the first trial would continue in the second trial, but that did not seem to be the case. "I can tell that you're charmed by my beauty, but I'm sorry, I will only seriously consider someone who is stronger than me to be my partner," Xia Mei suddenly said. Yuan raised an eyebrow and said, "No, I just don't understand why you decided to hide your identity. I thought you were someone I knew, but that doesn't seem to be the case." "I have my own reasons for hiding my identity." Yuan casually shrugged and proceeded to ignore Xia Mei, returning to his study. "Nobody here recognizes me? Seriously?" Xia Mei muttered in a dumbfounded voice when even the Huang family began ignoring her. I recognize you," the driver said in a low and somewhat nervous voice. However, Xia Mei didn't even look at him, almost as though she didn't even acknowledge his existence. Several days later, the carriage came to a stop when they finally arrived at their destination, Colossal Mammoth City. Xia Mei, who was back to hiding her appearance, said to them, "The last few days were fun. Thank you for letting me tag along. I would love to continue tagging along, but I have to prepare for the Tournament of Strength, so we will have to go our separate ways here. While I still don't know who you are or your purpose for following us, I am glad that you did, as we have managed to arrive at our destination in one piece. It would have been really dangerous for us if I had to deal with all of the magical beasts by myself," Yuan said to her. "I'm sure you would have managed it even if you had to do it by yourself. Anyways, I will see you later, Yuan. Don't disappoint me at the tournament. I really look forward to exchanging fists with you." Xia Mei disappeared into the city shortly after, followed by Yuan and the Huang family. "We have a little over a week until the tournament. I am going to use this time to exchange my treasures," Huang Chen announced to everyone there. Once they rented a hotel, Yuan followed Huang Chen and Huang Shaoli to exchange their treasures while Dong Zhou and Qin Kai stayed back to protect Mistress Huang and her son. Since this was their first time coming to the Colossal Mammoth City, Huang Chen had to spend some time gathering information about the best places to exchange treasures. "Then you are most likely looking for the Colossal Tower. It's the hottest location in this city when it comes to treasures. Most visitors go there to exchange their treasures as well. Thank you for the information. Here is a token of my gratitude." Huang Chen handed some gold to the person that provided him with the information. Meanwhile, Yuan looked around with a pondering face. The giants in this place are noticeably larger than the ones in the last two cities. Yuan mumbled. "Of course. This is the capital of the giants' continent, not to mention the upcoming tournament. All of the strongest giants in the continent will be gathered in this city," Huang Shaoli said. "I am aware of that, but I didn't think there would be such a vast difference. Just wait until the tournament. You'll be like an ant compared to most of them." Sometime later, they arrived at the Colossal Tower, and just as its name suggests, the place was enormous, and it was one of the biggest buildings Yuan had ever seen in his life. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The building was so tall that he couldn't see the top even with his head tilted all the way back. I can't imagine how much effort and resources the giants had to spend to build this magnificent tower. I have always wanted to see it after hearing about it during my first time on this continent. Huang Chen sharply sucked in a bunch of cold air before mumbling in a dazed voice. They entered the building sometime later. Make sure you don't wander and you keep your focus. It's actually very common for humans to die here, and most of them are accidents caused by giants and humans when we fail to pay attention to our surroundings. We're like ants in this place, after all. Huang Chen warned them. Huang Shaoli swallowed nervously and immediately stuck to Yuan. Do you mind if we hold hands? She asked him, acting like a child who did not want to be separated from her parents by accident in a large shopping mall. Sure. Yuan nodded and held on to her soft hands. Their group began wandering the tower, approaching every store that caught Huang Chen's attention. Yuan didn't do much besides pay attention to their surroundings to make sure they don't get stepped on by accident. As for Huang Shaoli, she was focused on the sensation around her hands, feeling like she was on a date with Yuan. Over the next couple of hours, they would go through dozens of stores and even some personal vendors. At the end of the day, Huang Chen managed to exchange almost a dozen treasures. This place is truly heaven sent. The quality of treasures in this place is incomparably superior than the ones found in Southern Stronghold. Extending the business trip was definitely worth it. Hell, I might even do this every time I come to the Giants' continent now. Huang Chen had a wide smile on his face as they exited the tower. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1028. Published at 13th of June 2022, 6:57 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1028. 1028. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1028. Colossal Tower. 2. Over the next few days, Yuan and the Huang family would return to the Colossal Tower early in the morning to exchange treasures until it was late at night. As the days got closer to the day of the Tournament of Strength, there were noticeable more giants that were above 15 meters walking around the city. At this rate, I will be done with my business by tonight, Huang Chen said to Yuan as they left one of the stores in the Colossal Tower. Yuan, you know you can exchange treasures with the giants if you want. It would be a shame to leave this place without a souvenir, too, Huang Shaoli said to him. It's really fine. I don't have any treasures to exchange, anyways. He shook his head. He obviously had plenty of treasures for trade, but since this was only a trial and nothing was real, he wouldn't actually gain anything from exchanging treasures, and such actions would only cause him to lose a treasure without anything in return. At the end of the day, Yuan and the Huang family made their way towards the exit of the Colossal Tower after Huang Chen exchanged the last treasure he had. Now that I am done with my business, there's only the Tournament of Strength left before we head back home, Huang Chen said. And he continued, thank you, Yuan, for all of your effort. Really, I cannot thank you enough for everything you have done for my family. I am just doing my job. No, you've done more than that. I will compensate you properly once we get back to the hotel. I have the best reward for you. Once they exited the Colossal Tower, Yuan's group came to a sudden halt when a group of giants wearing armor blocked their way. What's happening? Huang Shaoli looked around with an uneasy face. However, before Huang Chen could even say anything, a familiar voice resounded, that's them. They're the ones that are conspiring against the giant emperor. Yuan turned to look at the voice to see a human woman pointing at them with a terrified look on her face. It was Zhou Nuiying, the bandit who became the Huang family's bodyguard to steal their treasures. She followed us all the way here? How did I not notice her? Yuan wondered inwardly. I will need all of you to come with me. We will kill you if you resist, one of the giants there said to them in a cold voice. Wait. This is a huge misunderstanding. That woman is lying. She's actually a bandit that we failed to kill when she tried to steal from my family. She's part of an infamous group of bandits called the Gold and Money Bandits. We only came here to exchange treasures. Huang Chen exclaimed with a pale face. Humph. I don't care about your situation. We take all accusations that could bring harm to His Majesty very seriously. We will determine whether you are telling the truth or not once we interrogate you. Resist and we will kill you on the spot. The giants pointed their massive weapons at Yuan's group. Yuan narrowed his eyes at Zhou Nuiying, who had a subtle smug on her face. How troublesome. These giants probably don't care about who is right or wrong. Their resolute and emotionless eyes tell me that they've already come to a conclusion. To kill all of us no matter if we are innocent or not, to remove all risks. After all, we humans are nothing in their eyes. Yuan closed his eyes and took a deep breath before shouting out loud, Giant Emperor Kulis. I know you can hear me. Get your ass out here, or I will never fight you ever again, much less participate in your stupid tournament. The place turned dead silent as everyone there stared at Yuan with wide eyes filled with shock, all of them seemingly in disbelief. When the giants snapped out of their daze and realized that Yuan had just cursed their emperor, their faces immediately turned as red as a hot iron that had just left the fire. Huang Shaoli and her father fell to their butts from shock, and they both stared at Yuan with disbelief. This fucking idiot. He just sealed his fate. Zhou Nuiying laughed inwardly. Blasphemy. How dare you curse at our emperor? A mere human. Even if the heavens forgive you, we giants will never forgive you. The giants there roared, causing the entire city to shake. Die. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The giant leading the armored giant suddenly swung his halberd at Yuan, causing the air there to tremble. Halt. A calm yet loud voice suddenly rumbled. When the giant heard this familiar voice, his entire body immediately froze. Everyone there turned to look at the direction of the voice to see a bulky man that was around 15 meters tall slowly approaching them. This man had short golden hair and a pair of emerald eyes. Yuan didn't recognize this man at first glance, but the giants there immediately recognized him even though he was much smaller than usual. All of the giants in that area suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to him while screaming, "This loyal subject pays respects to His Majesty." Giant Emperor Kulis, who was suddenly much smaller compared to their last meeting, nodded and spoke, "Stand back. That man is an acquaintance." Yes. The giants did not question him and all stepped back, giving them room. Although your cultivation has weakened, your audacity remains unchanged. I was worried that you might have turned into a coward when you lost your cultivation. I'm relieved to see that was not the case. Giant Emperor Kulis said, seemingly not offended even though Yuan had cursed him out before so many giants. How did you know that I had been watching you? He then asked. Yuan smiled and said, You can try to hide your aura all you want, but you can't hide the killing intent within your gaze no matter how hard you try. I noticed you even before I entered this city a week ago. Ha ha ha. Giant Emperor Kulis suddenly laughed out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1029. Don't misunderstand, Tian Yang. When I emit killing intent, it's not because I want to kill you. I only do it when I really want to fight someone, and I really want to fight you right now, but alas, you're not ready yet. Giant Emperor Kulis said after he stopped laughing. Anyways, what is going on here? What is the cause of this commotion? You better have a good explanation on why you summoned me. It's really simple. Yuan proceeded to explain the whole situation to Giant Emperor Kulis. I see. Conspiring against me, huh? Well. Are you? Giant Emperor Kulis asked Yuan with a calm expression on his face. What do you think? Yuan responded with a question of his own. A wide grin suddenly appeared on Giant Emperor Kulis' face. You're many things, but you're definitely not a backstabber. He turned to look at Zhou Nuying, who was on the verge of pissing herself right now from fear. She could have never imagined that Yuan would be buddies with Giant Emperor Kulis himself. The gold and money bandits, huh? I have never heard of you losers, but you must be a bold bunch to dare to try and trick my guards. Giant Emperor Kulis sneered in disgust. Guards. Public execution. When Zhou Nuying heard Giant Emperor Kulis' words, her face immediately paled. Wait. He's lying to you. I am not a bandit. I am really telling the truth. They're secretly plotting to harm you, Your Majesty. How dare you, a mere human, try to trick us? Die, you bitch. One of the guards there suddenly shoved his spear at Zhou Nuying, piercing her stomach. And before Zhou Nuying could even react, another guard also moved into action, penetrating her shoulder. Then another spear came flying at her. Visit L-World. Com, for the best no_vel_read_ng experience within seconds, 7 spears skewered Zhou Nuying's body without mercy. Die. The head guard swung his halberd, decapitating Zhou Nuying the following second. Yuan and the others there watched as Zhou Nuying's head rolled on the floor like a ball. Nobody there uttered a single word for the next few moments. Giant Emperor Kulis was the first to speak again, and his voice boomed throughout the city. Heed my words. This young man here is my lifelong rival, Tian Yang. Nobody is allowed to touch him before the tournament of strength. Yes, Your Majesty. The giants there had many questions, but nobody there dared to ask these questions. Giant Emperor Kulis' words were the law. The moment he announces it, they lost all chances to dispute or question it. I look forward to your performance at the tournament of strength, Tian Yang. Don't disappoint me. Giant Emperor Kulis said to Yuan before turning around and walking away. Yuan returned to the hotel with the Huang family shortly after. You almost scared me to death back there, Yuan. Huang Shaoli confronted him with a puffed face, trying to look angry. Sorry, but I didn't have any time to explain. Fortunately, it all worked out in the end. That could have been the end of all of us, after all. Huang Chen could finally take a breather. Visit L-World. Com, for the best no_vel_read_ng experience sometime later, Huang Chen stood up and approached Yuan. Yuan, this is for you. He retrieved a small wooden box and offered it to Yuan, who raised an eyebrow. What is this? He asked as he accepted it. Open it and see for yourself. NNO. Does this mean it's the end of the trial? Yuan wondered to himself as he opened the wooden box. However, it was not a golden orb inside the wooden box. Instead, it was red ginseng that was the size of an adult's finger and shaped like a human body. What is this? Yuan asked again since he didn't recognize the treasure. That's a perfect tempering ginseng. Huang Chen said with a smile on his face. Is that the perfect tempering ginseng? Inside the spectators' room, Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in a shocked voice after seeing the treasure. What kind of treasure is that? Chu Liuxiang asked with a curious look on her face. Perfect tempering ginseng. It's a priceless treasure that was only available during the primordial era. In other words, they are no longer available, at least they shouldn't be. What are the effects of this perfect tempering ginseng? Does it have anything to do with one's physique? Li Jinxi asked. She nodded. The perfect tempering ginseng will fix all imperfection within one's body and then refine it. It is a priceless treasure that will improve one's physique multiple times and is a legend that many body refiners spend their whole life chasing after even to this day. You can find the rest of this content on the L-World .com platform. Even if it's indeed this perfect tempering ginseng, does it really matter? I mean, we're still inside the stairway to heaven, so it's just an illusion. Meishio suddenly said. Yes. You're right. We're still inside the stairway to heaven. I guess I got a little excited after seeing a legendary treasure. It's truly unfortunate. Feng Yuxiang sighed. Meanwhile, Huang Chen just finished explaining the perfect tempering ginseng to Yuan. Since you're going to participate in the tournament of strength, this perfect tempering ginseng will benefit you greatly. Thank you. Yuan said with a smile on his face. What a pity. If only this treasure was real. He sighed inwardly. There's still a few days until the tournament. Go ahead and take this time to absorb the perfect tempering ginseng. Huang Chen then said to him. All right. Yuan nodded. Good luck. Huang Shaoli and the others said to him before he locked himself inside another room. Yuan looked at the perfect tempering ginseng in his grasp with a pondering look on his face. Ah, what the hell? There's no harm in trying it. Although this is just a simulation, all of the food that I ate had a taste to it and this is probably no different. And without thinking any further, he tossed the perfect tempering ginseng inside his mouth and started chewing on it. Ugh! It's so bitter. Yuan's body shivered after tasting it. Once the bitterness disappeared, his body suddenly began heating up, and within moments, his body started steaming with smoke coming out of his pores. Full_our current novel on L-World. This shocked Yuan, who did not expect anything to happen after eating the perfect tempering ginseng. I need to cultivate. He tossed aside all questions in his mind and immediately sat down to cultivate. Chapter 1030. Published at 19th of June 2022 1:18 and 31 seconds p.m. Chapter 1030. 1030 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1030. Perfect physique. What's happening to Yuan? Why is his body steaming? His skin is also red, almost like his blood is boiling. Chu Liuxiang exclaimed after seeing the sudden changes to Yuan's body. Don't tell me that it was caused by the perfect tempering ginseng? I thought treasures acquired inside the stairway to heaven won't affect one's body for real, Lan Yingying muttered in a dazed voice. I have also never heard of this before. Just what is happening to the young master? Feng Yuxiang had a profound frown on her face as she thought about the implications from the situation. Meanwhile, steam continued to gush out of Yuan's pores like boiling water in a kettle, quickly filling the room and turning it into a sauna. Although nobody there could see it, significant changes were benign made inside Yuan's body. His muscles moved around as though they were alive, and his bones altered their own shape, becoming bigger and more sturdy. His blood rushed throughout his body, feeling adrenaline like never before. The perfect tempering ginseng was not only altering his body and fixing all of its imperfection, but it was also strengthening his bones and muscles at the same time. One would expect intense pain from the changes happening inside Yuan's body, but besides feeling a little hot, he felt not even the slightest of unpleasant feelings. Suddenly, the golden symbols that had embedded itself inside Yuan's body began emanating a profound light that made his body seem as though it was being protected by a layer of divine aura. His spiritual veins and dantians suddenly began expanding in size, becoming wider and allowing his spiritual energy to circulate throughout his body multiple times faster. And while Feng Yuxiang and the other spectators couldn't see it through the reflection, Yuan's cultivation was actually starting to decrease. His peak spirit lord cultivation quickly lowered to the first level, but it did not stop there and continued until it reached the first level of spirit grandmaster. Several more moments later, his cultivation went down to spirit master, and it would not stop until his cultivation reached the first level of spirit apprentice. However, despite his cultivation lowering, Yuan's aura did not weaken at all. In fact, it even skyrocketed, becoming many times stronger than before. Over the next several days, Yuan would sit in the steamy room without moving a single finger, almost as though head turned into a statue. The Huang family didn't dare to disturb him even though it was getting close to the tournament. The tournament is in 2 days, yet he's still holed up in his room. Hopefully he doesn't miss the tournament, Huang Shaoli sighed. The perfect tempering ginseng is a miracle treasure that can turn even a trash cultivator into a dragon amongst dragons. I cannot even begin to imagine its effect on someone who was already a dragon to begin with. Huang Chen shook his head. I guess we'll find out when he, Huang Shaoli stopped speaking when an unfathomable pressure suddenly enveloped the entire building. Who is emitting this pressure? Everyone in the hotel was shocked by the pressure that came out of the blue. The pressure was so powerful that it made it hard for everyone in the hotel to breathe properly. Fortunately, this pressure disappeared as quickly as it appeared. However, even though it was just slightly, everyone that had a taste of this pressure would not stop trembling in fear. Meanwhile, inside his now clear room, Yuan slowly opened his eyes, which glimmered with dominance. He took a deep breath and stood up. I've gotten taller. My body feels as light as a feather, and my body is constantly absorbing spiritual energy even without needing me to do anything, almost as though I am cultivating just by breathing. Yuan looked at his own hands. My cultivation had somehow weakened to Spirit Apprentice, yet I feel even stronger than when I was a peak Spirit Lord. Is this also because of the perfect tempering ginseng? But Huang Chen didn't mention anything about this. As he tried to comprehend the situation, his cultivation actually increased, reaching the second-level Spirit Apprentice. However, he did not get any notifications from the system, nor did his stats increase. Despite that, he could somehow still feel his body getting a little stronger. Forget it, there's no point thinking about it now. I'll ask Tianer once I finish this trial. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yuan left the room shortly after. Wei Yuan. Is that really you? Huang Shaoli's eyes widened with shock when she saw Yuan. His appearance had changed so much that everybody there instantly recognized it the moment they saw him. Not only did Yuan get taller, but his face was also much more refined and handsome, not to mention his body, which looked flawless even underneath his clothes. Heavens! You're almost like a different person, Huang Chen mumbled in a dazed voice after seeing Yuan. Huang Shaoli approached Yuan until she was standing right in front of him. Why, you grew half a head in just a few days? Is this the effects of the perfect tempering ginseng? She exclaimed. After swallowing nervously, she asked in a trembling voice, Do you mind if I touch your body for a bit? Yuan smiled, Go ahead. Huang Shaoli didn't hesitate and started squeezing his arms and legs with her hands. Wow! What perfect muscles! They feel soft yet firm at the same time. How is this possible? She cried inwardly as she squeezed his muscles as though she was kneading dough. Looks like the perfect tempering ginseng worked like a charm on you. Huang Chen smiled. Yes, and it's all thanks to you. Yuan bowed to him. Don't even mention it. Huang Chen shook his head. Huang Shaoli suddenly exclaimed, Wait. What happened to your cultivation? Why are you suddenly a Spirit Apprentice? What? Huang Chen's eyes widened with shock after hearing her words. He narrowed his eyes at Yuan, and sure enough, his cultivation was only at the third-level Spirit Apprentice. However, before he could even say anything, Yuan's cultivation suddenly increased to the fourth level right before his eyes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1031. Published at 19th of June 2022 1:18 and 29 seconds p.m. Chapter 1031. 1031 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1031. Perfect physique. 2. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure what happened, but my cultivation was reduced to Spirit Apprentice after consuming the perfect tempering ginseng. Yuan casually said, leaving them speechless. How can you be so calm about this? You just went from being a peak Spirit Lord to a Spirit Apprentice. And the tournament is in 2 days. Even if you have a perfect physique, you won't be able to do anything in the tournament. Huang Shaoli exclaimed. The perfect tempering ginseng reduced your cultivation? That's impossible. The treasure has no such side effects. Huang Chen exclaimed in a panicked manner. After all, he would be responsible for Yuan's lost cultivation since he was the one who handed Yuan the perfect tempering ginseng. Calm down. Although it's true that my cultivation is gone, my body feels a lot stronger than when I was a spirit lord. If you don't believe me, you can try hitting me. As for my spiritual energy, it won't take much effort for me to return to my original cultivation base. Yuan explained to them. Are you for real? You feel stronger even though your cultivation was reduced to such a state. What kind of phenomenon is this? Huang Shaoli mumbled in a dazed voice. He nodded. Go ahead. Hit me with your strongest attack. I will even remove my armor. Yuan removed his invisible dragon cloak and gestured for Huang Shaoli to hit him. However, Huang Shaoli was hesitant to strike a spirit apprentice with her cultivation. Don't worry, I will be fine. Yuan showed her a confident smile. She suddenly recalled how Yuan was able to defeat a giant with his raw strength. Don't blame me if you die from this. Huang Shaoli shouted at him before unleashing her strongest martial technique backed by her full cultivation base. Ha! Huang Shaoli plunged her palms directly into Yuan's chest. Boom! The entire room shook for a brief moment from the impact, yet Yuan remained standing in the same spot without moving even a millimeter. No way, Huang Shaoli muttered with a baffled look on her face. See? I told you. I barely even felt your attack just now. Yuan said with a gentle smile on his face, treating Huang Shaoli's attack as though it was a baby's playful punch. Does this mean you'll still participate in the tournament of strength? Huang Chen asked. Of course. He nodded. Very well. Then you must restore your cultivation as soon as possible. If you need any help, we have plenty of treasures. Yuan raised his hand and gestured for Huang Chen to stop. You have already done enough by giving me the perfect tempering ginseng. The tournament is in 2 days, right? Then I have plenty of time. If you say so. Huang Chen nodded. Yuan returned to his room shortly after to cultivate. My cultivation speed is at least 4 to 5 times faster than before. At this rate, I should barely return to being a spirit king right before the tournament. Thus, Yuan would spend the next 2 days cultivating non-stop. Meanwhile, in the spectators' room, Chu Liuxiang mumbled in a dazed voice after seeing Yuan's new appearance. My God! I didn't think it would be possible for Yuan to become even more handsome than he already is, but he's exceeded my expectations. Meishio didn't say anything, but her gaze when looking at Yuan was akin to a young maiden who was falling in love for the first time. Li Jinsi swallowed nervously after seeing Yuan's new physique. In her eyes, that was the most attractive part of him, and she couldn't help but imagine how it looked underneath his clothes, causing her mouth to become watery. As expected of a legendary treasure. Only the perfect tempering ginseng could possibly create such a miracle, Feng Yuxiang sighed, feeling a little dejected that she couldn't get a closer look at the treasure. Hey, Meishio, do you think this treasure will affect Yuan's real body? Chu Liuxiang asked Meishio in a low voice. I don't know. But considering how powerful the treasure is, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. I'm going to check his body. Be right back. Chu Liuxiang logged off cultivation online before Meishio could even respond. After removing her helmet, Chu Liuxiang turned to look at Yuan, who was sleeping right beside her. He doesn't seem any different. Maybe it takes some time before the treasure affects his real body. Chu Liuxiang returned to the spectators' room shortly after. Nothing yet, but I won't lose hope just yet. Chu Liuxiang said to Meishio. 2 days later, Yuan stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. Peak Spirit Grandmaster, huh? I am on the verge of breaking through to Spirit Lord, so I might have a breakthrough during the tournament. Yuan thought to himself after inspecting his own body. He left the room to meet up with the Huang family afterward. We're all ready to go. What about you, Yuan? Huang Chen asked him. I am ready as well. He nodded. Good heavens, You've managed to increase your cultivation from Spirit Apprentice to Peak Spirit Grandmaster in just 2 days? Just how monstrous are your talents? Huang Shaoli was baffled when she saw his cultivation. Yuan and the Huang family left the hotel and started making their way to the location of the tournament. Although they didn't know where to go, they only needed to follow everyone else in the street, as they were all going the same direction. After walking for almost 2 hours, they would eventually arrive at a massive square where a single colossal stage existed in the center. However, there were so many giants in the square that all of the humans there had to fly if they wanted to see anything. Not far away from the stage, there was a large platform supporting a colossal throne, where a handsome giant with golden hair sat. Of course, this man was Giant Emperor Kulis, and he had a bored expression on his face. However, that changed when he noticed Yuan's presence somewhere in the crowd, and a wide smile appeared on Giant Emperor Kulis' face. Show me a grand performance, Tian Yang. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1032. Published at 20th of June 2022 8:07 and 56 seconds AM. Chapter 1032. Chapter 1032. Ancestral Tablet. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1032. Ancestral Tablet. While Yuan waited with the Huang family for the Tournament of Strength to begin, countless players in the spirit heaven were busy looking for the treasures that Yuan had hidden for his event. Even though it has been over 2 weeks since Meishio revealed the location of the treasures to the world on behalf of Yuan, only half of the treasures had been found, so the treasure hunt was still in progress. In fact, the players' excitement and passion only grew stronger with every passing day. However, because of this seemingly innocent treasure hunt, thousands of players have died to other players because whenever a treasure is found, there would be a massive war to acquire it. Although it was never Yuan's intention to cause such chaos, what's done has already been done, and nobody blamed him for the chaos. Bastards. I found this treasure first. Get your hands off me. Nonsense. It doesn't matter who finds it first. The last person to hold it will be the rightful owner. The residents of Spirit Heaven were dumbfounded by the commotion caused by the players. In their eyes, most players were rouge cultivators, and it was not normal for so many rouge cultivators to gather in one spot, so they couldn't help but keep watch of the situation. When the residents of Spirit Heaven realized that the players were looking for treasures, they also joined in on the fun. Even though Yuan was no longer in Spirit Heaven, he was still causing mayhem there. Meanwhile, Chairman Li was laughing his ass off as he watched the chaos from a safe distance. Since Yuan had given him special treatment for his help, he didn't need to fight for any treasures. I am truly thankful to Chairman Zhao for his foolishness. If he didn't offend Yuan, I wouldn't have taken his place and became friends with Yuan. Chairman Li laughed out loud. Of course, Chairman Zhao was not the only one who had received special treatment. White Lotus, Xia Jingyi, and Yu Rou also received their own divine-grade treasures. About 10 minutes after Yuan arrived at the square with the Huang family, Giant Emperor Kula stood up from his throne and swept the crowd with his profound gaze. The noise in the square immediately died down, and everyone there turned to focus on Giant Emperor Kulis. Welcome to the Tournament of Strength, where the strongest warriors in the Giants continent are born. In the Tournament of Strength, only one thing matters: your physique and raw prowess. Giant Emperor Kulis' voice rippled throughout the whole city. There are only 3 rules in the tournament. 1. You are not allowed to step on the stage with any treasures on your body. We have uniforms prepared for all participants. Besides this uniform and your own body, you will bring nothing else onto the stage. For the second rule, you are not allowed to use any martial techniques during the match. The only technique you are allowed to use are body enhancement techniques. In other words, anything that doesn't directly affect your body is strictly forbidden. Last but not least, you are not allowed to consume any kind of medicine or pills during the match. Before the match begins, you are required to consume a body cleansing pill, which will remove anything unnatural affecting your body, so any pills or treasures that you have consumed beforehand will be rendered useless. If you dare to disobey these rules and cheat before my presence, I will personally rip your head off your body. Did I make myself clear? Giant Emperor Kulis narrowed his eyes at them. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone responded in a clear voice. Now then. As for the qualifications to participate in the tournament. I don't care if you're a human or a giant, if you can create even the slightest crack on this ancestral tablet, I will allow you to participate in the tournament for a chance to acquire the title of Colossal. The next moment, Yuan watched as two massive giants wearing golden armor carried a large black boulder onto the stage. Even though the boulder itself was smaller than either one of these giants, it required two of them to carry it. The ancestral tablet is made out of the most durable material that can be found in this continent, and it has a special property that gives them extreme resistance against spiritual energy, essentially making them invulnerable to all spiritual attacks. However, that doesn't make them vulnerable to physical damage. Not only are they durable against spiritual energy, they are also incredibly durable against physical damage. In order to participate in the tournament, you must strike the ancestral tablet with nothing but your fist and make a crack in it. Simple, right? Visit Readle.me for extra chapters. Everybody there was left speechless by Giant Emperor Kulis' last words. Even though the task sounded simple, it was actually an incredibly difficult requirement that will eliminate the majority of people there today. I have one more announcement before we begin the qualifiers. Giant Emperor Kulis suddenly said. And he continued, the winner of this year's tournament will not only receive the title of Colossal and a mythic rank body refinement technique, he will also earn the right to take my youngest daughter as their bride. What? Several people there exclaimed in a shocked voice after hearing such words. Giant Emperor Kulis has a daughter? Yuan raised an eyebrow. In the midst of the commotion, a figure suddenly appeared on the stage. This person was an unbelievably beautiful woman with long golden hair and a pair of emerald eyes, but she did not have the physique of a giant. Yuan's eyes widened when he saw this woman on the stage. That's Xie Mei. She was the giant emperor's daughter all along? Huang Shaoli exclaimed beside him. Indeed, this woman turned out to be Xie Mei, who had accompanied them to this city. Greetings, warriors. Just as my father said, I will consider marrying the person who will bear the title Colossal for the next 100 years. Xie Mei spoke in a gentle voice as she swept the crowd with her gaze, stopping when her gaze met Yuan's. When that happened, a bright smile appeared on her face. This woman. Yuan shook his head inwardly, wondering why he didn't realize her true identity sooner when she had the same features as her father. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1033. Published at 21st of June 2022 8:29 and 11 seconds AM. Chapter 1033, Chapter 1033, Ancestral Tablet, 2. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1033, Ancestral Tablet, 2. Good heavens, the winner of the tournament will have a chance to marry Princess Maya? This means that the winner will not only become the next Colossal, but he will also join the royal family. This is a once-in-lifetime chance. The giants there were extremely excited. Princess Maya? Is that her real name? Huang Shaoli mumbled in a pondering voice. Forget about her name. I am more interested in her figure. Yuan suddenly said. Her figure? So you like women with that kind of body, huh? Huang Shaoli said as she stared at Maya's hourglass body. Huh? Yuan raised his eyebrows. No, that's not what I am talking about. I'm wondering why her physique resembles that of a human when her father is that massive. I heard that female giants naturally have a smaller frame than male giants. Furthermore, I doubt that's her real size. The royal family has a body refining technique that can alter their body size. Huang Chen explained. I see. That's why Giant Emperor Coolus shrunk in size when I saw him again. Sometime later, those who wanted to participate in the tournament started testing their strength against the ancestral tablet. Ha! A 21-meter-tall giant stood before the ancestral tablet and punched it with all of his might, causing the entire thing to tremble. However, that was all. The strike was strong enough to make the ancestral tablet tremble, but it wasn't strong enough to cause any damage to it. Impossible, the giant muttered in a dazed voice as he stared at the spot head just punched, seemingly in disbelief. Get out of the way, you weakling. The giant behind him suddenly pushed him aside and punched the ancestral tablet as well. Dong! The ancestral tablet shook violently. The giant removed his fist from the rock with a confident smile on his face, but when he couldn't see any cracks on the ancestral tablet, his complexion paled. Ha ha ha. Don't open your mouth if you have no strength to back it up. Get out of my way. One by one, both giants and humans would take their chances at the ancestral tablet. However, even after going through hundreds of participants, not a single person has managed to damage the ancestral tablet. An hour later, someone finally managed to damage the ancestral tablet, and it was a female giant. She really did it. She cracked the ancestral tablet. The judge overseeing it announced after seeing the small crack on the rock. Shortly after the female giant cracked the ancestral tablet, the damage actually restored itself until it looked brand new. What interesting material. Yuan thought to himself, and he imagined making an armor out of it. Sometime later, after thousands of people had gone on the stage, Yuan finally decided it was his turn to approach the stage. However, the moment he stepped on the stage, Giant Emperor Coolus' voice resounded, "You don't need to qualify for the tournament, Tian Yang. You'll participate in the tournament regardless of your result." Yuan turned to look at Giant Emperor Coolus with raised eyebrows. Is he the rumored rival of His Majesty? I heard about him. Me too. I wonder how strong he is, the people there mumbled to each other. Even if you say that, I want to test my strength. Yuan suddenly said. Giant Emperor Coolus narrowed his eyes and pondered for a moment before silently nodding his head. Yuan approached the ancestral tablet the next moment and prepared to strike it. After taking a deep breath, Yuan punched the ancestral tablet with all of his strength. Boom! The entire arena shook when Yuan's fist landed on the ancestral tablet. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. It was clear to everyone there that Yuan's strike was the strongest thus far. However, when Yuan removed his fist from the ancestral tablet, everyone was shocked to see not even the slightest crack on it. Giant Emperor Coolus narrowed his eyes at the ancestral tablet. Not bad. A smile appeared on his face for some reason. Yuan stared at the rock with a pondering face, and without saying anything, he turned around and walked off the stage. Looks like we have overestimated that human. He couldn't even do anything to the ancestral tablet. He doesn't qualify to participate in the tournament, but since His Majesty gave him special treatment, he'll still be able to enter. How unfair. The giants there complained amongst themselves in a low voice, especially those that had failed to pass the qualifications. They despised Yuan for being allowed to participate in the tournament even though he clearly didn't qualify. However, nobody there dared to complain out loud. Sometime later, after several more people struck the ancestral tablet, the 13th person to go after Yuan's turn shocked everybody there with his results. He shattered the ancestral tablet. How is that possible? Holy heavens! I have never seen anything like this before. Who is that man? His prowess must be near His Majesty's level if he could destroy the ancestral tablet. The spectators were in shock. It was not just the spectators. Even the person who destroyed the ancestral tablet appeared to be quite shocked by the results. Unbeknownst to these people, Yuan's strike had destroyed the core of the ancestral tablet during his turn, severely weakening the ancestral tablet, hence why this random person was able to shatter the rock even though his strike wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Of course, Giant Emperor Coolus was aware of this, but he didn't say anything. What should we do now, Your Majesty? The ancestral tablet is broken and it'll take some time to prepare a new one. The judge asked him. There's no need. 40 people have passed the qualifications. That is more than enough. We will end the qualification here and begin the tournament. Yes. Once the stage was clean again, Giant Emperor Kulis called all 40 participants onto the stage. The majority of the participants were unsurprisingly giants. As for humans, there were only 4 of them that had qualified, including Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1034. Published at 24th of June 2022 4:18 and 22 p.m. Chapter 1034. 1034 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1034 Number 3 All 40 participants stood on the stage after Giant Emperor Kulis announced the end of the qualifiers when the ancestral tablet was destroyed. The 40 of you will now fight against each other until only one of you remains undefeated. We will decide the matches through a lottery system. Giant Emperor Kulis snapped his fingers, summoning someone onto the stage. This person was holding onto a metal tray that had 40 storage pouches on it. Every storage pouch will have a number inside, from number 1 to 20. Those that have picked the same number will be fighting against each other. Simple, right? Go ahead and choose your pouches. Yuan and the other participants went to grab their storage pouch. Once everyone had one in their grasp, they opened it to retrieve a piece of paper with a number on it. Number 3. Yuan read the number on his paper in his head. If your number is not 1, get off the stage. The judge on the stage said to them a moment later. Everyone there but the 2 male giants with the number 1 left the stage. The judge handed each of them a body cleansing pill to swallow and a pair of white uniforms to change into. Once the pill took effect and they changed clothes, Giant Emperor Kulis signaled the beginning of the fight. Boom! The 2 giants on the stage immediately began striking each other with their bare fist, each of their strikes causing the stage to tremble and creating ripples in the air. Yuan swallowed nervously after seeing the fierceness of these giants. Compared to Sorgi, these 2 were on another level, perhaps several levels higher even. Hey. Yuan. Are you sure you'll be fine? Each of their strikes feels strong enough to shatter a real mountain. Huang Shaoli tapped his shoulders and asked him in a nervous voice. Let's hope so, Yuan said with a bittersweet smile on his face. Despite having a perfect physique, he wasn't completely confident in winning the tournament, as he had underestimated the difficulty of it. Over the next 2 hours, the giants on the stage would repeatedly strike each other without stopping for more than a few seconds, almost as if they had unlimited stamina and their bodies were indestructible. Their bodies began turning red after 3 hours, and in the 4th hour, the spectators could finally see blood being shed. Yuan and the Huang family expected the fight to end soon in their condition, but to their absolute shock, these 2 giants continued to abuse their bodies for another 3 hours. The whole fight had lasted 7 hours, and by the end of the fight, not a single bone in their body was left unharmed, with most of them shattered into many pieces. How in heaven's name will they continue to fight the next match in such a condition? Huang Shaoli mumbled to herself after seeing their broken bodies. It was a miracle that neither of them had died, but they were definitely on the verge of death. Winner, Warrior Kozus. The judge announced. After the fight ended, the judge handed both of the participants a pill that Yuan had never seen before. During the next few minutes after they swallowed the pill, their bodies could be seen recovering at a rapid rate, and by the end, their bodies looked completely fine, almost as if the match had never occurred. While the giants healed their injuries, some of the servants went on the stage to clean the blood until it was essentially new. Once the first 2 participants left the stage, the next 2 entered the stage. This time, it was a giant against a human, a female human at that. However, nobody there dared to ridicule the female human, as she had qualified to stand on the stage by cracking the ancestral tablet, something the majority of the people there had failed to achieve. The 2 of them changed into a white uniform and consumed a body cleansing pill a few minutes later. After bowing to each other, they started punching each other. The giant was over 20 meters tall while the female human was only around 165 meters. It was like watching an ant fighting an elephant. However, despite the difference in their sizes, the female human did not immediately lose to the giant and even gave up a good fight. Although the fight lasted only half as long as the previous match, it was still very shocking to the spectators, as the female human had actually managed to defeat the giant. Winner, warrior Mu Shiying. She actually won, Huang Shaoli muttered in a dazed voice as she stared at the tall beauty standing on the stage, her body soaked in sweat and blood. Visit Readle.me for extra chapters. While the participants for the second match recovered their injuries, Yuan prepared to enter the stage. You're next, right? Huang Shaoli asked him. Yes, I am. He nodded. Then take this. It'll help you. Huang Shaoli suddenly retrieved a wooden box from her spatial ring and handed it to him. Huh? You know I cannot use any treasures before the match. Yuan raised his eyebrows. Just take it. She urged him. Yuan accepted the box and opened it. His eyes widened when he saw what was resting inside the box. Good luck, Yuan. Huang Shaoli said to him with a smile on her face. Yes. Thank you. Yuan smiled back at her before absorbing the golden orb of light inside the box. After absorbing the orb of light, Yuan could feel his muscles becoming even sturdier. The next participants may enter the stage. The judge's voice resounded a moment later. I'll be right back. Yuan said to the Huang family before approaching the massive platform, and he could feel the gaze of everyone there staring at him. The moment he stepped onto the stage, the scenery began to change, and Yuan found himself back at the stairway to heaven a few seconds later. What a place to stop the trial, he sighed out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1035. Published at 24th of June 2022 4:18 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1035. 1035 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1035 Coolus, congratulations on passing the second trial, Master. Tian'er appeared before him shortly after he returned to the stairway to heaven. Yuan turned to look at her with a serious expression on his face. Tian'er, I have some questions for you before I continue the trial. Why did the perfect tempering ginseng affect my body even though that shouldn't be possible? Tian'er tilted her head and spoke in a calm voice. Why shouldn't it be possible? I mean, I get that I can learn techniques while inside the stairway to heaven, but the treasures affecting my actual body doesn't make any sense. Everything should be a simulation, so it shouldn't be possible to actually affect my body. A profound smile appeared on Tian'er's small face as she spoke. While it's true that the trials are all simulations created by the stairway to heaven, the treasures are actually real. The stairway to heaven is more than it appears. It's not only a bridge that connects the 9 heavens, it's also a vault full of treasures stored by the previous masters. Yuan's body trembled in shock after hearing Tian'er's words. The stairway to heaven is a treasure vault, he muttered in a dazed voice. That's right. However, only the master has access to these treasures, hence why nobody is aware of it. Tian'er continued. Yuan fell to his knees after learning the truth and coming to a realization. I could have acquired so many priceless treasures at the colossal tower, but I wasted such a chance because I assumed the treasures were fake. What a blunder. He cried inwardly. Wait. Even if I didn't acquire the treasures during the trial, the treasure should still exist somewhere in the stairway to heaven, right? Yuan suddenly asked Tian'er. She nodded and said, if you wish to have access to the vault, you'll need to continue climbing the stairway to heaven, as this place is also a training device for you. I understand. Thank you for the explanation. Yuan climbed the staircase shortly after, ascending to the third trial. This appears to be your final trial, Master. Tian'er said to him. Is this going to be a continuation of the previous trial? Or is it going to be something entirely different? Yuan closed his eyes and wondered to himself as the scenery began to change. When he opened his eyes, he found himself standing on a platform. However, the platform looked different than the last one he saw. It was much smaller, and he couldn't see any giants around him. Yuan quickly noticed a figure standing in front of him. This person was a young man with long blonde hair that shone like gold under the sunlight, and he was a head shorter than Yuan, but he emanated an aura that was far superior. Yuan ignored this person for now to look at his surroundings, and he was immediately surprised by the scenery, as he appeared to be surrounded by clouds. Where am I? What kind of trial is this? Yuan wondered to himself. Ding! Kulas? Yuan raised an eyebrow upon seeing this familiar name. After realizing the situation, he turned to look at the young man standing not far away from him. Giant Emperor Kulas? Yuan didn't recognize him immediately because he looked much younger than the giant Emperor Kulas from the previous trial, not to mention his size. Who the hell are you calling the giant emperor? Stop daydreaming and fight me already, Tian Yang. Kulas shouted while pointing his fingers at Yuan. Yuan's eyes widened with shock. What is going on? Why does he look human? I thought giant Emperor Kulas was born a giant. Is this the stairway to heaven messing with me, or is there something I am missing here? Kulas spoke again, remember. No weapons or treasures. This is how a real man should fight, with their bare hands. He showed Yuan his fists and his arms that were bulging with muscle and veins. Yuan tossed aside all his questions temporarily and held his fists in front of him. Here I come. Kulas suddenly dashed towards him. Whoosh. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Kulas swung his fist at Yuan at lightning speed. What? The speed of Kulas' strike was so fast that Yuan could only see a blurred arm for a split second before feeling intense pain in his body, as Kulas' fist had struck him directly in his body. When Kulas struck Yuan's body, it felt like someone had shot a cannonball at him. If it wasn't for his perfect physique and enhanced body, Kulas' strike would have made a hole in his body. After being struck, Yuan immediately retreated to gain some distance. Shit! It hurts. Yuan nearly fell to his knees from the pain. What's wrong, Tian Yang? You don't look so good. I have been waiting for this moment, the day that I will finally defeat you. Ahaha. Kulas laughed out loud. Yuan showed a bittersweet smile. Even with the perfect physique, this trial won't be easy. Here I come again. Kulas warned him before rushing at him again. I can't react to his strikes, so I can only endure them. Yuan activated the Golden Mountain body refinement and discarded all thoughts of avoiding, only focusing on attacking back. Whoosh! Yuan gritted his teeth and prepared for the strike. The moment Kulas' fist landed on his body, Yuan struck back with his own fist. Kulas' eyes widened with surprise after feeling the strength behind Yuan's strike. Not bad. Let's see how long you can last. Kulas shouted as he threw a second punch, then a third, and a fourth. Yuan would tank all of Kulas' strikes with his bare body before retaliating with his own attack, and over the next few hours, the two of them would continue exchanging blows in such a manner, almost as though they were participating in the tournament of strength. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.